August 10th, 2021, City of Pico Rivera Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Council members, Commissioners Camacho,
Here.
Laura,
Here.
Lutz,
Here.
Dr. Sanchez. Here. Mayor President Elias.
Here.
All present.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, can you please lead us in the invocation?
Sure. Please stand. We gather today here with intent on doing good work. We seek to represent fairly and well those who have given us this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, guided by understanding and wisdom. We seek to serve with respect for all. May our personal faiths give us strength to act honestly and well in all matters before us. Amen.
Councilman Camacho, can you lead us in the flag?
Please face our flag. Ready, begin.
Mr. City Manager, do we have any changes in the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, we are going to continue item 1 and item 18 for the next council meeting. Also, we'd like to move closed session to the very beginning.
Okay, can you repeat that?
Yes, we are going to continue items 1 and 18 to the next council meeting, and we're going to go into closed session.
Okay, is that fine with you, council members? Okay, so let's, council, will you lead us to the closed session?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, we'd ask at this time the City Council to recess into closed session for one item, which is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D, as in David, 4.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The record should reflect that the City Council, with all 5 members being present, convened to discuss the one item of anticipated litigation. The City Council received a briefing on that matter that the City Council did authorize the retention of, get my notes, I'm sorry. My apologies. There we go, got it, thank you. To authorize the retention of Cosage, yes, Cosage, S-U-M-I-C-H, Sumich, Parasola, and Taylor, and related attorneys, and pursuant to their proposed legal services agreement, there will be some minor adjustments that our office will forward to those legal counsel, and to further authorize the city manager to execute the legal services agreement once it is completed. And that was unanimous by the city council. That's my report from closed session.
Thank you, Council. We have special presentations tonight. Our first one is a proclamation for Yvette Shahinian. Is she here?
Yes.
Yvette?
She's on a Zoom call, Mayor. She's above on the screen.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Yvette.
How are you?
We have a proclamation for you. Yeah, I don't know if it fits in the mail. Okay. Shall I read it?
Sure.
Okay. Whereas Yvette grew up in Southern California at San Fernando Valley and attended University of California at Irvine, where she graduated magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology and furthered her education in Southern California, earning her master's in public policy. Whereas at the conclusion of her internship with former Congressman Becerra, Ms. Shahinian started her career in December 2020 with United States Representative, 38th District, Linda Sanchez, where she started as a field representative case leader in the Congresswoman's office. Whereas she is incredibly proud and engaged in the diverse communities represented under the 38th Congressional District, working on key transportation, immigration policies while managing the day-to-day operations of the 38th District. Now, therefore, it to be resolved that the mayor and the city council of the city of Pico Rivera on the 10th day of August, 2021, do hereby commend Yvette Shahinian for over 12 years of dedication to the 38th Congressional District and the elected officials and the constituents of the city of Pico Rivera. Yvette, we surely appreciate everything that you've done for us.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I really appreciate the recognition. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Council members, Camacho?
Thank you, Mayor. If I may, I just want to say a few words too. I mean, it's bittersweet for Ms. Shahinian to leave us as she has represented many cities, but also specifically the city of Pico Rivera for the last 12 years. She's been, no doubt, a valuable asset to our community in so many different ways. Specifically, I've worked with her over the years, assisting our veterans whenever there's an issue with veterans, and since it falls under the federal government. In her case, some of her employees have assisted many of our veterans here in the city of Pico Rivera, and even more recently with the Wheeler Dam Safety Improvement Project, as we know, has been a major project coming to our city that's been impactful, and I think the part of the success of where we are today is because of Congresswoman Linda Sanchez. But you know, we all know that at the end of the day, there's the workers behind, and Yvette, Ms. Shahinian has definitely been instrumental. So I just want to thank you again, Ms. Shahinian, for all your work in the city of Pico Rivera, and we wish you well in your next endeavor.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Sure. I want to say thank you as well. Thank you so much for, I had a brief year working
with you, and I want to say thank you very much for all of your service. We lost you as a great liaison. I know that Ms. Griselda Ortiz will be taking over your spot, and so we know she has some big shoes to fill with you gone. Would you mind sharing what your promotion or your new move and opportunity is? I know you're not too far, right, in LA still?
No, and thank you for the kind words. The city has a very special place in my heart. I've worked on many projects in the city, and I was even part of the chamber, the Pico Rivera chamber for a while. So, the residents in the city have a great place in my heart, and I'm definitely going to miss working with you guys so closely. But you're right. I'm not too far. I'm at NBC Universal. I'm their senior manager of government affairs. So working on state and local issues. So. I'll still be around. I'll still be in government affairs if you ever need anything from me, and hope to work with you guys again soon.
Thank you.
Any more comments?
Ms. Shahinian, thank you very much for all the hard work that you've provided and the results for Pico Rivera. And this proclamation, of course, is a gratitude for all the hard work that you've done, and we anticipate you doing great work in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just,
Laura?
just lastly, thank you very much for all the dedication and best of luck to your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next we have a certificate of recognition. Let's see, for Mr. Paul Camacho. Is Mr. Camacho here? Coach Camacho? Coach, can you come up and pick this up, please? Now, Coach, they were telling me, how many years do you have coaching? 45. 45 years. And everyone becomes an El Rancho star, huh?
Well, my parents moved here in 1962, and I graduated from El Rancho in 1969. I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school, 17 years old, and came back to the community and just dedicated my life to the youth.
Yeah.
Because I was very young, but I was grounded in the Marine Corps' attitude, just a lot of different things. But I'm just so glad that I'm able to be an example for kids.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a very good person in the beginning. Okay, I had problems like everybody else when I came back from the service, and I'm happy to tell everybody here, I don't care, that I just celebrated 7 years of sobriety, and I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and my son is a member, and we're a family of sobriety by the people that I surround myself with, and God who gives me this. Thank you. On? Okay. I really don't need this because I'm pretty loud, but it's okay. This is an honor for me and for my family because, to give you a little history, I have a wife that I've been married to for 48 years, and she's bedbound. And my daughter and myself, we take care of her. And I'm just so happy that my wife has allowed me to participate in the passion of my life, which is having kids see a person who wasn't perfect, who did things that you're not supposed to do, but I came out on the other side because of God of my understanding. And I'm so happy that I know just about everybody up here really well, except for Mr. Laura and Mr. Elias here, but I saw you at our veterans meeting. I was there. But everybody else, the city manager, I was had the honor and privilege of coaching his twin boys. And, you develop relationships with thousands and thousands of parents and kids here that love Pico Rivera. And I'm happy to say that not only was but everything that I've done was not just because of me. I surrounded myself with my brothers, my other coaches, friends of mine that have passed away that were coaches, Pete Tovar, Rudy Garcia, Richard Reese, they're all gone, but they were coaches with me, and they helped me do what I needed to do to make kids understand that there's family, God, your country, and your city. And we represent Pico Rivera wherever we went with dignity and with pride. And when you played us, you knew you were in a game. And if we lost because you beat us. You didn't beat us because you out-hit us or because we weren't in condition. Because those two things, what I learned from the Marine Corps, I put it into the kids. And I have kids who've joined the Marine Corps come back and tell me, Coach, you're harder than the way they treat the Marines now. And I said, well, 1969 was a long time ago. They don't do the things up there anymore in the Marine Corps like they did in 69. And that was because of the Vietnam War. They had to mass produce Marines. But I just want to say I'm very gratitude for everybody up here and for the city to recognize me in my 45 year. Mr. Eric Lutz, he's a person that I saw on the campaign trail who did something that's very unusual for a councilman. He kept his word. He kept his word. And some councilmen, they don't keep their word. That's just a fact of facts. And I like the style of this council because I watch TV, I watch you guys, I'm involved, and I'm around. Mr. Camacho, he knows. I tell him all the time, if he didn't have my name, he wouldn't have won.
This is my deal right here. That's my deal.
Yeah. So anyway, all joking aside, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for recognizing me. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is this mine? Yeah.
Thank you. Honest. Now I'm going to practice. One last thing. My team will be back after we win the championship, and we'll all be standing there.
Wonderful.
Council, we have 3 public hearings.
Presentation.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
We have a special presentation by the Sheriff's Department on homeless.
Oh, that's right. Let's see, we have a presentation of the Homeless Services Team.
Yes. Deputy Ben Swahili will come up and give the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor. City Council members, thank you for having us. Last time we left off a few years ago was my partner, Deputy Roy Sanchez. He presented a presentation regarding homelessness and his position and mission here at Pico Rivera. And he's moved on to the same kind of position, but to a different bureau. I'm happy and excited to continue that mission here in the city of Pico Rivera. And we have our captain currently is, Phil Marquez, but we do have an acting captain right now, Mrs. Jody Hutak. Again, I'm Deputy Benson Healy with the host team here in Pico Rivera. Our mission for the Pico Rivera Sheriff Station and the city of Pico Rivera is to create a bridge and connecting that bridge between homelessness and getting them services. That is my biggest mission and our mission for our station here in the city. On a daily basis, we patrol and identify homelessness and conduct outreach for local shelters and nearby medical centers through Lawson Path. One of the biggest things that I always had in the back of my mind is when I took over the position is, and also from the city council, is being compassionately aggressive towards this, towards the homelessness. Being compassionate, knowing their circumstances, and also being aggressive because sometimes they just need that little push. And we kind of find the right variable in between. Basically, homelessness is the absence of having a place to live. It can be one individual, and it can be a mother with her kids or a father with their kids, or actually a whole family. I'm sure you guys heard a lot of the word encampment. Encampments are considered 5 or more homeless people or individual who have established residency in a certain location. That is our definition for encampment. Our goal is to establish a rapport with people who are experiencing homelessness and connect them with the necessary resources for long-term housing. That is my main mission. It's been working out real good so far. Some of the businesses, they're like, this guy needs to be arrested, he's homeless. And I always say, homeless is not a crime unless you commit a crime. We use different approaches when interacting with homeless people. The reason why is they have personal challenges, drug abuse, mental health, and medical problems. Homeless in general affects the quality of life for the actual person, the homeless person, and the community. Our team and from the city, we receive our homeless activity from the public, calls for service, city apps, city staff members, and my other partners, field deputies. The geographical factors. Pico Rivera has several tracks that run through the city. We have Union Pacific and BNSF. Their organizations are responsible for the removal of homeless encampments and their protocol. The ways of encampments that are identified through BNSF or Union Pacific is through their Union Pacific police or BNSF police or myself or businesses who are surrounded near the railroads. This has been a bigger factor in the last year. The reason why I say BNSF is the Rio Hondo channel. We've had many activities there, many homeless encampments on the Rio Hondo channel, which when they are removed from being part of the host team, they go back in our city through the railroad. We also have riverbeds that are surrounding our areas. We have the San Gabriel Riverbed, our coastal basin, and the Rio Hondo Riverbed. They are maintained by the Army Corps of Engineers and LA County Public Works. Again, encampments are identified on these Rio Hondo and San Gabriel riverbeds, and the basin is patrol checks, our communities who are walking on the riverbed, and all the public works, LA County Public Works, and from the city. The host team responsibility is the riverbeds. I'm a liaison for them, and they're my partner. When I recognize an encampment on one of the riverbeds, I contact the main person who is in this area of the host team, and it's usually my partner Ginger, or Roy, or Eddie, Mr. Medina, and I send them an email. They'll come over, or I'll give them a call. We go target that encampment, and they have their own protocols through the sheriff's department. And through there, once the protocols are assigned to that encampment, there's a multi-agency that is involved here. And that's including host team, myself, LASA, and PATH. So with every cleanup or encampment breakout, there has to be medical services, housing services offered before the encampment can be broken up. It's common that a homeless person faces challenges like drug abuse, mental health, and medical problems. These challenges cause people to lose their jobs, struggle to pay their bills, and just in life in general, just paying the bills. Homelessness and mental health may lead to cognitive, behavioral problems that makes it difficult and a stable income to carry out daily activities to encourage a stable housing. Many homeless develop medical problems such as skin disorders, trauma, physical assaults from being on the street, and their most common lifestyle is that. I'm proud to say that our statistics, there's a 17% homeless population decrease from 2005 and 19 to 170 in 2020. Our largest homeless population now has shifted from the center to the city to the south end, with over 74 homeless people documented through LASA. And these are the trends from 2018, 2019, and 2020. The beginning of this year, unfortunately, LASA was planning to do a count, but due to COVID-19, it was canceled until further notice. They are talking about the fall of this year. If not, it's going to be the beginning of 2022. In June of this year, our LASD host team did a 5-day operation, multi-agency operation on the Rio Hondo riverbed. All the residents and businesses called it the tree house. I don't know if you guys saw it on Washington Boulevard. That extended about 5 miles south of Washington Boulevard. Our team members were LASD mental health med team, mental evaluation team, our LASA, and Ocean Blue, who actually cleaned up and dismantled the encampments. LA County Department of Public Works, they did all the tree trimming and cleaned up all the vegetation. And these are some before and after pictures. The before pictures are to your left, and then to the right are after pictures. One of our biggest struggles is the San Gabriel Riverbed Coastal Basin. That's located right off of Whittier Boulevard. Whittier and the San Gabriel River. It seems like it kind of like a center hub for homeless guys. And I talked to them, building a rapport with these guys, and it's just convenience, going to the liquor store and coming back. They have respect for the businesses. They don't want to be in front of the business, so they go back to the campground. So there's a lot of, on the homelessness, they care about the businesses on some parts, but on the flip side, they're using, coastal basins like this for overnight camping and spending their time there. But that's just a daily patrol check. We have a lot of bike riders coming up and down from Seal Beach all the way up north. So I make sure that's cleaned up, moved, and with the help of City of Pico Rivera Public Works and the relationship we have with them, they're just doing an awesome job. The pressure washing, having kids hang out on clean benches, and try to alleviate the homeless, making bigger encampments there. Another obstacle that we've been going through here in the city as far as homelessness and encampment is Camford Street and Crider Avenue. And this stretch of railroad is not used right now by BNSF. This is just adjacent to the Rio Hondo riverbed. It seems like the homelessness have been attracting this area in the last 6 months to a year pretty heavy. In between these buildings, there's probably about a 3-foot wide by 75 feet width all the way to Crider that the homeless people have been staying in there. If you're not really looking, you don't see it. But based on business owners, I have a good relationship with Mariscos Bahia, the cardboard company. They let me know, and we tackle it. Actually, Mike Garcia, I told him, man, you got to come over here and check this out, and he went with me, and he goes, wow, I can't believe it. I have a great relationship. I'm very fortunate to have a relationship with Scott Russ. He is in charge of all cleanups through BNSF, and he's a lieutenant, special agent for BNSF police. Himself, and Wampara. Those are my go-to guys for these kind of cleanups on their railroad. So basically, it's a safe haven for the homeless. When they're recognized, a little process, what I do, recognize the encampment, I call Scott Russ, I let him know what's going on, I take pictures, and he submits a bid. On this bid, I try to be proactive on how to prevent this from happening again. And I told, hey, Scott, we got to build a fence, if that's okay with you guys. He goes, Ben, that's a great idea. And I'm proud to, they approved it. It was a $25,000 upgrade. They use expanded metal. You would need a generator and a really good grinder to cut that fence. So far, no homeless have entered, and we're pretty proud of that project. Again, this is on Camford Street in Crider. This gentleman here, his name is Jose Quintero. He's been homeless here for many years. He has a wheelchair. He is receiving medical. He gets services from the government for medical, but he doesn't have enough to get a hotel room. And so he's in a wheelchair. He suffers from bed bugs and all that skin disease. One of a few residents who are on the bike path of the San Gabriel sent a complaint in, and we went to go investigate it. And this encampment was so hidden you couldn't see it from Pico Vista Road or from the path. The reason why they found this was one of the kids who were walking on the path, the ball flew in there, and he was like, what the heck? So they saw an encampment in there. So headed down there, checked it out. offered him services. Jose Quintero actually took services, and he was gone for about a month, and he came back. He got kicked out of Saddle Ranch, one of the hotels that are provided through the city. I'm sorry, the county. But got together with the Department of Public Works for LA County. They were there for the cleanup. They did the cleanup, and they did all the vegetation cleanup also. And these are some of the different departments that I work with and my partners. The city manager's office, community economic development, parks and recs, public works. Excuse me, I want to add one more is parking enforcement. They've been a big help to me. And our parks deputy, I want to thank the PSP team and the host team for the sheriff's department. And these are some of the services that are available to the homeless, which I conduct outreach to them. So we have LASA, they're number one, LA Hop, Path, First Day in Whittier, and also Volunteers of America in Whittier, but they are relocating to a bigger facility. And I want to thank the mayor, city council, and all the departments listed for their efforts and communication with us and the relationship. I hope in the future our homeless count is going to decrease. I'm pretty confident about it, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do, thank you. How many deputies from our sheriffs alone, aside from all of the other departments and areas that you mentioned, how many deputies do you have to help you? Is it just you?
Yes, ma'am. At a Pico Rivera, it's just myself. Yes.
Got it. And you call on these other entities to help you with handling these encampments?
Yes, host team, they help me out a lot, and it turns into a multi-agency cleanup. But the host team, their specific focus are the riverbeds, and my specific post here is the city.
So it seems you need help, correct? Would that be something that our city has to pay for? Or I hear there's a lot of dollars that came through the county sheriff's department. How would we advocate to bring more of you to help us here?
Ma'am, would you like to give your take on that?
Well, with the sheriff's department contract, I work closely with the city manager, and we're discussing on, with regards to what resources we'd be able to bring to the city, and if that's a possibility of being able to do that. So we're in the works of discussing that right now.
Thank you. Another question. I've seen individuals, not just encampments, one or two people on Whittier Boulevard, smaller streets, and kind of just laying with blankets or tarps covering up areas. So what should residents do in that area? Maybe they feel a concern that the individual might be intoxicated or drunk. Maybe they're not causing a big scene, but they are kind of on the street and obviously appear to be homeless. What do you recommend, or what is the case in that case? As you mentioned, it's not illegal, but maybe a resident has a concern about it.
Yes, ma'am. And, that question comes up a lot from the residents. One of our biggest one is, his name is Romario Sepulveda. I know these guys by first name basis. It's daily contact. Whittier and Church. He's been a resident here in Pico for 35, 40 years. He's in a wheelchair and he can't walk. It takes him to just go half a block or just go to the restroom. It takes him hours. I think the best way is through the app or just call the sheriff's department. Mm-hmm. If they see there's not breathing, absolutely call it in. Call 911. Hey, I'm not sure if this guy's breathing.
Mike.
If the guy's laid out and he's talking, he's coherent, I advise a resident to, to call the sheriff's department and let them know what they have and we'll respond and try to help them out the best we can.
And my last question is, in terms of general safety, so if we don't have any concern, they're not drunk or they're not causing a problem, they can stay on any street or any facility in the city?
Great question. If I see a person that's laid out on the sidewalk, I'll wait there till he leaves. And that's just a respect for the community in that street. And especially, like, for example, Church Street. So I'll do everything. If I see a person like that, he's not going to stay there. I'm going to make sure he gets up. If he needs any services, I'll do the outreach, and especially medical. Medical is always, I always let them know, hey, we have Beverly Hospital, PIH. What do you need? Oh, Ben, I'm good. All right, I'm going to wait for you to leave. And usually they have a lot of stuff behind. And that's when I call Public Works. I talk to Martine. Hey, sir, just, small encampment. Mr. Romaro just left, for example. He just left, but he left a whole bunch of stuff on the sidewalk. You don't mind coming to pick it up? Absolutely. They'll be there within 20 minutes. So they're a great resource to help team up with me to clean up the sidewalk like that and help the residents go through the straight line instead of them stepping off into the street.
And how frequently do these individuals accept your housing or services? There's a lot of resources right through the county. Do they turn you down, just walk away? What usually happens?
Ma'am, on average, probably every 10 to 15 contacts, somebody will accept housing. And one of the drawbacks, and it's not LASA, and it's not the city, it's not the residents, it's placement. We are in SPA 7, LASA, and right now, every bed is filled. And that's one of our drawbacks right now. And if somebody does accept services, I'm going to have to make an appointment 24 to 48 hours to get them housing, opposed to
Immediately.
right now. Because in 48 hours, they can change their mind. So hopefully in the near future, there would be more available housing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Councilman Camacho?
Thank you, Deputy Ben, for the presentation and giving us an update as to where we are with the homeless. I know you've taken over, and I think you've done a great job at it as well. I know it's a challenging approach dealing with the homeless population, especially as we know most of them do have mental health issues that makes it that much more challenging to assist. But looking at areas like the BNSF and the Union Pacific areas, key areas, we have the riverbeds, it's making it challenging in our community. But I think overall, with having a deputy assigned and our staff and the partners, I think we've done a lot better job than most cities in the area. But the challenges still exist. And, when residents call us and there's a homeless individual sleeping on the street or taking up a sidewalk and kids have to walk around them and to the street, it becomes a public safety issue. But as you stated and what we've been using, we're passionately aggressive, right? And that's the key is, we care and we want to help, but we also are reminded that we're here to also protect the interests of our community and our residents. And we, as you stated, we can't just let them stay and be, we got to move them along, because I think once we allow these encampments to exist for prolonged periods of time, or they stay in a particular sidewalk and area prolonged periods of time, it becomes that much more challenging. So I think the approach is great, and we should continue about that. We had a business watch meeting last week over on the north side with about 30 businesses, and one of the issues was homeless, and one particular individual by the name of Rachel, as everybody knew, was there, and she was a lot more aggressive than most homeless. Can you tell us, the amount of resources that go into just an individual who becomes very challenging, as this individual by the name of Rachel? And also, you've suggested to our businesses to get a letter that allows them to, help in that. Can you explain both the amount of time that you spend on individuals like Rachel and what happens, and also can you tell us about that letter that the business community can also get from the department that is effective for 6 months as well?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. It's a great question. Miss Rachel, she's homeless, and she's been in the community for many, many years on the north side of Pico Rivera. She suffers from bipolar schizophrenia, and some days I go and make contact with her at the marketplace, farmers and growers, and mechanic shop, in the back alley, and some days she's super aggressive, very aggressive. She doesn't like the uniform. That's why I take a different approach with her because of her mental health issues. I've had the Met team come out and try to help her, but most of the time she doesn't meet the criteria. She gets aggressive with the community, just local moms and dads going to go get, going to the local carniceria or to the bakery. But I've built a rapport with her, and that's a very important thing I want to mention, is building a rapport with these, with the homeless. Sometimes they're not as aggressive. I contact her once in a while, and she just starts crying. And she talks about her mother that passed away. I've had Path along my side talking with her for about half an hour on numerous occasions. Also Path, to try to take a different approach. I've tried to take an approach of having a female talk to her, having an elder person, somebody she's contacted. And she, with every person she contacts, she's a little bit different. But I believe she's got arrested for assault on a person, and she hasn't been around for the last 2-3 weeks. That's what I've heard. I was up there this morning talking to some of the businesses, and they haven't seen her. But like we discussed, sir, at the meeting, the letter agency. Prior to that, I offered a letter agency. It's a great thing for businesses. It's good for 6 months. You can get it from the Pico Rivera Sheriff Station. Basically, you just put your doing business as, who is the lawful manager of the, or owner or lawful manager in charge of the property, and it's good for 6 months. What does that mean? Any person who is loitering or trespassing on the property, they're subject to a private person arrest if they refuse to leave. So it helps out a lot of businesses around town, from the north end all the way to the south end. So if any business that wants to get a letter agency, they can come down to the sheriff's station, pick one up, have them sign it, and then we will file it under the business name.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Member Lara?
Officer Ben, thank you for your dedication to our community. I've had the opportunity to talk to you privately about some of these issues when I was running for city council. You spent quite a deal of time with me just talking at Rio Vista about some of the issues, and we talked about some of the individuals you come across. So I want to thank you for your dedication, and I really get that sense of compassion from you, because it's not just people who are creating a nuisance. These are long-term residents that have lived in Pico Rivera for decades, and they're unfortunately down on their luck, and they're dealing with mental health issues, and it's multifaceted complications that they have, so you need a multifaceted approach. Did the LA County Board of Supervisors cut your budget today? I know that was one of the items. They were.
You know what, I'm actually not sure. I've been catching up on
Yeah.
specific station-related stuff, but I can definitely.
Well, I want to thank your department for still providing quality service despite the fact of having less resources. I think that's very important. I think one day, hopefully, we will have the funding or find some way so that we can provide our own homeless shelter. I don't know where, I don't know how, but I think we need to be able to provide that for our residents And I get it. A lot of people don't like that idea because not in my backyard, right? But at the end of the day, it's a solution that we need to come up with in some way to be able to provide. Everyone needs to chip in because you come to learn that this issue is shuffleboard, right? They're given tokens, and I'm really concerned with the gold line coming down Washington Boulevard. You're going to get more transit people, more homeless people, because it's shuffleboard, because one city shuffles them to the next. So I just want to thank you very much for your dedication and your work.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Member Lutz.
Thank you, Mayor. Deputy, I appreciate and I thank all the effort that you've provided this year and the past years. The public has seen you and they're interacting with you and they're receiving your guidance and advice, and I appreciate that, and as well as Lieutenant Hutak. Out there when there's problems, you're out there and resolving them. We can't resolve them immediately, but together, in unified effort, step by step, we're getting the problem solved. And you had mentioned that the homeless count has reduced over the last couple of years. You had also mentioned that the homeless count is concentrated in the southern part of town. And I know the town has the boundaries of a riverbed on one end and a riverbed on the other end. Why is it that the concentration of homeless is on the southern part of the city now, this year?
Yes, sir. Every year, LASA does a homeless count, hands-on, on the ground, of persons experiencing homelessness, walking around in their vehicles and such forth. The count is done on the north side of the city, middle of the city, and the south end. We were in the red area. The middle of the city I consider is Washington and Rosemead. This past year, it's shifted down towards the south end. So anything south of Washington Boulevard, it seems like it's increased. Our number was 74. And I believe it is from the riverbed, Rio Hondo riverbed, and them staying out in those safe havens, like the property I mentioned earlier off of Camford and Kreider. They get comfortable, just like with Mr. Camacho said, they get comfortable and they don't want to leave. So us being proactive, putting up fences, working with the local BNSF, keeping these guys going and keeping them in transit. There's really no particular reason why they're staying in one place, but if they feel comfortable in one place, they're going to stay there. If we don't contact them, they are going to stay there. And that is our biggest thing right now.
Deputy, is the population of homeless or unhoused, is it of a certain median age? Is it typically a younger person, middle-aged person, combination of all? What do you see this year in 2021, being that COVID just impacted the entire country?
Yes, sir. Actually, that's a good question. As far as a younger, I'm saying 18 to 22, 23, it's not as much, but they're out there. But the predominantly is middle age and older folks. All the way up to, probably the main is probably between 28 to 65. It's a wide range. It's a wide range, and that's probably the most of that count.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Deputy, I want to clear something up because I often get comments from residents complaining about the homeless population around the Washington and Rosemead area, and I have to clarify that they're not homeless; they're residents of that Pico Rosemead mansion. So, I want to make that clear there that they're not homeless; they're part of that that facility. The other is, I've been here 3 years now, and I've heard some of the reports about the homeless situation. And one of the, I guess, the most frank conversations that I've had with one of the deputies in there is, he said, we got to face the fact that we're only going to be able to help a small percentage. He said there are people that are just going to live this lifestyle. And, the best thing that the city can do is just deal with the reality that we have that situation. So how can we, as city council members, help you in this situation and this reality that we're going to have people living out there? And one other thing, we're going to have 160 homeless people moving down south because of the Whittier Narrows repairs.
Yes, Mayor, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest, having another resource, having another host deputy for Pico Rivera, it's always, having a partner or having that second person always helps out, and you could do a lot more. Our shifts are so tight already that I don't like to pull somebody off the line to go help me out on the riverbed, because if they have a priority or emergency call, it's just not fair to the community who actually needs the help right there and then. So I take it on a different pace, but if I did have another partner, that would greatly, it would be a lot more effective. Regarding the Whittier Narrows, they just did that big cleanup up north. You're absolutely right. And I've been concentrating on that northern end of the San Gabriel riverbed. I've noticed some people coming down, but I just tell them to keep on going. If they need services, I can try to help them out, but just keep on pushing, And can't have them stop here and, setting up camp and setting up residency. And it turns into a lot more effort with a lot more departments. And if you keep it minimal, it's easier to solve. If it gets big, there's a lot more resources that need to be available. Hope that answers your question, Mayor.
Mr. City Manager, in our mitigation funds, do we cover this area and this anticipated problem that we're going to have with the homeless?
It's not specific to dealing with the homeless or the impacts as a result of the construction project, but I am meeting with Lieutenant Hutak, discussing possible scenarios of where we can enhance the service to deal with the homeless issues.
Thank you, Deputy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Deputy Ben.
Thank you.
Ready?
Are we ready?
Yes.
Yes. Public hearings.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We need to deal with item number 1, even though it's going to be continued. We need a motion. We will need to open the public hearing for purposes of entertaining a motion to continuing this matter to your next regularly scheduled city council meeting of September 24. So we need a motion to that effect.
So
Do
moved.
we need motion?
So moved.
Okay, second?
A second?
I'm sorry, August 24. August 24.
September.
No, August.
We had a motion, and we had second here, so.
Okay, Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Laura?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to item, public hearing number 2, Mr. Mayor. This is a public hearing approving consideration of approval of a proposed resolution amending customer power generation rate schedule for Pico Rivera Innovative Municipal Energy Prime. It's appropriate to proceed by opening the public hearing, determining if there's any public comment that's been received on this matter.
There is none.
With no comment either written or requested verbally, it's appropriate to close the public hearing and bring it up to the city council for consideration of action.
Motion?
So moved.
Okay, second?
A second?
Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Laura?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Moving on to the third public hearing, Mr. Mayor. This is a public hearing for consideration of approval of a proposed resolution authorizing the city manager and limited administrative authority to adjust Pico Rivera Innovative Municipal Energy Prime rates. Again, on this item, it would be appropriate to open the public hearing, request if there's, to seek if there's been any public comment presented on this item?
There are none.
With no public comment, Mr. Mayor, it's appropriate to close the public hearing and bring it back to the council
Motion?
for action.
So moved.
Second?
I second.
Oh, good. Okay. Vote?
Councilmember Camacho.
Yes.
Councilmember Laura.
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Mayor Elias.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That concludes our public hearings, Mayor.
Okay, consent calendar. Do we have any items that council members wish to pull? Okay, let me go down the line here. Do we have any?
Yes, I'd like
Mayor
to
Pro Tem?
comment. Yes, I'd like to comment number 23, please.
23. Any others?
Oh, sorry, that's part of the regular agenda. Sorry, this is only 1 through 19. I'll wait. Okay, I'll wait till the regular agenda.
These are for items 4 through 19.
No?
None.
Okay. Councilman Camacho? None?
I'd like to,
Member Laura?
thank you. I'd like to pull item number 4, which is the city minutes. I'd also like to pull item 17.
Number 4 and 17?
Yes, thank you.
Member Lutz?
Mayor,
No items to be pulled.
No items?
Mayor,
So, can we, yes.
oh, we didn't do public comments.
Excuse me?
We need to do public comments.
Can we vote on? Okay, okay. Let's vote on the ones that have not been pulled. Do we have a motion?
So move.
I second.
Second? Okay.
Councilmember Camacho.
Yes.
Councilmember Laura.
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Mayor Elias.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so we have number 4.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like the minutes to reflect that Columbia, our financial advisors, Columbia, did not pick Cabrera Capital number 1 despite the staff report claiming that they did. I'd like the minutes to reflect that, please.
That is not correct.
No, that is correct.
That is not correct. Based upon the email exchanges that we have,
No,
that
no,
is
no,
not
no,
correct.
no, 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 no. The minutes are related to the meeting, not emails and stuff that the public wasn't privy to. This is public record. The gentleman in public from Columbia Financial Advisor stated that he. did
Councilman?
not- Yes.
Can you pull your mask out so everybody
Yeah.
can understand you?
Yeah. So the minutes are public record. They reflect what took place in the public during the city council meeting. The gentleman from Columbia Financial stated that he did not pay Cabrera number 1. The public information given to us via the staff report stated that they did. I just want the minutes to reflect that.
Yeah, and I think part of the conversation, he was going to attempt to further explain it.
No, no.
and he was cut
Mr.
off.
City Manager, I think you're out of order, okay? What we do is that we can get a clarification from the clerk to see if indeed the statement is correct.
It's just a factual statement.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, could I motion to continue the agenda item to the next meeting so we can review the actual video and see what was said. So we move that to the next meeting to review the video.
And I'm trying to pull the minutes up
Yeah.
on my computer. Yes, I mean, there's a form of a motion, has not received a second, so unless there's a second to Councilmember Lara's motion, it would be appropriate, and I think it would be appropriate, much, cleaner in any event, to follow
we have
the
a motion
request
from
of
you?
Reviewing the minutes, just so that there's,
Yeah, I'd like to put that in the form of a motion, that the motion is that the minutes reflect that Columbia Capital did not pick Cabrera number 1 per the representative, yet despite the fact that the staff report claimed that they did. That's it. And that's in the form of in a motion. I'd like the minutes to reflect that. May I
Okay.
have a second?
I think your motion needs a little clarification because what
Sure.
you're doing is that you want a motion that's going to support what your statement is, but what we need to do is we need to verify. So
That's-
is it the motion to verify?
Sure. The motion can be to verify.
Okay.
All communication.
Do we have,
No.
no,
It's not
Mr. City
accurate,
Manager, okay, you're out of order,
But can I make a
okay?
statement?
Yes, you're out of order, okay? Now, it's for clarification,
Yes.
okay? So do we have a second for clarification?
This is
On the
not,
minutes.
just to clarify the motion, Mr. Mayor, it's not for approval to tonight.
No, it's not for approval. All we're looking for right now is clarification,
And to refer it back to staff. to
Yes.
Review the tape
okay?
in order to clarify.
So what we're doing is that we're getting a second for you to be able to determine whether his statement is correct or is it incorrect.
Based on our communication.
No,
Yes.
no. Based upon the public meeting. The minutes do not reflect all communication that ever existed. The minutes reflect what happened at the meeting. It's kind of like a boxer's scorecard, right? They score the match. The minutes are that. The minutes don't take into account everything that existed that the public was not privy to.
But Councilmember, what you're doing is that you're asking for a second.
To just
your-
verify,
Can I-
verify.
Can I just get a point of clarification from our city attorney that that is the proper way of doing this correction?
May I respond, Mr. Mayor? Yes. The minutes serve as a brief statement of what happened at the
Yeah.
council meeting. And generally, it is not word for word or a verbatim of what is stated. As I understand the motion tonight, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, is to not approve the minutes. Let's make sure that's clear. Number one, to refer the matter back to staff in order to verify the request from Councilmember Lara. Now, it's ultimately the council's minutes on whether or not you wish to have that as part of your minutes, whether it's correct or not correct. And as I'm reading the minutes, it states Columbia Capital's Managing Director Mike Williams and Urban Future CEO Michael Bush provided an explanation of the RFP process for the pension obligation bonds, which is a correct statement. Councilmember Lara is wanting more detail to that in his motion. But tonight, that's going to come back to you at your next meeting in any event, so,
Yes, thank you.
if this motion passes.
But in that context, then, can we just make sure that we clarify everything as at the same token? Because we can't just be specific to one thing, but not clarify other things. So why don't we take to your question, a deeper look and to make sure that everything that needs to be in those minutes should be in those minutes?
Okay, he has to put in the form of that motion, what you just said.
Well, no, I mean, I just simply want to reflect what the gentleman said. That's what the gentleman said. It's on the tape. I'm confident it's on the tape. We all were here. We listened to it. I just want the minutes to reflect that. Whether or not there's other exchanges that dispute what he said, that's a different matter. That's not handled in the minutes. I just want the minutes to reflect what happened. That's it.
But I
Do we have
feel
a
that-
second?
I don't, I feel that part of that was you cut him off and bullied him in a sense to shut
Do we
him
have a
off.
second?
Not for me.
I second, and if I understand the motion correctly, is that we want us to review the minutes and have a more robust, detailed description rather than the current description. Is that correct?
Yes,
Member
Councilmember
Lara?
Lutz. Thank you very much.
And it really would be the city clerk, because it's the city clerk's minutes.
Yes.
And that comes to the council, and if you wish to accept those minutes or reject those minutes, the council can accept or reject those. But as I understand the motion, is to refer it back to staff. And
So we have a second on that.
there is a second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Camacho,
Yes.
Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez,
No, if people want to see what happened, they can watch the video.
Mayor Elias.
Yes.
Motion carries.
This matter will be postponed to your next meeting and will be coming back to you.
Okay, we have 17.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is an important milestone, and I thought I wanted to pull this. If I could please get the representative for Jacobs. I believe they were, I'd like them, can you speak on this item?
Yes.
The-
This Rich Nagel from
Rich Hill.
Jacobs.
Sorry, my apologies. Before you speak on the item, I just want to give some context to where I'm coming from. Sorry to make you stand and sit. So what's before the city council is picking a resin that will hopefully extract PFAS and PFOA from our water, right? This resin, I take issue with because it's produced by Dow Chemical. Dow Chemical is a subsidiary of DuPont. 3M invented PFAS, right? They then sold the rights to DuPont. DuPont is the one that proliferated PFAS and created this problem that we have. I take issue with awarding a resin to the company, ultimately DuPont, who ruined our water and then will financially benefit. Lastly, I will be voting on this item, yes, because at the end of the day, it saves our residents a considerable amount of money. I don't like it, but I think it's necessary.
So you want to comment on it, you don't want
I
to pull
want
it?
to comment, but then I'd like him to kind of talk about this a little bit to verify or to talk about this resin if possible.
If I may, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members. We actually have a presentation that we prepared to more educate everyone on this item. So we actually have the Jacobs team, and they can bring up the presentation, and Rich can talk about it. Here we go. Thank you. Rich, you wanted, are you doing it, or is it Scott?
Let's, Monica, let's first let them ask the questions.
Okay.
If they want a presentation, then they can.
Okay.
What's happening here?
No, so I think there's some questions that wanted to be answered, and if council wants a presentation, we can do a presentation.
Is that what you asked for?
Yeah, let me just ask one question to make this valid. I don't need the presentation, to be honest
Okay.
with you. I've looked at the numbers. But, sir, the representative from Jacobs, and I apologize for calling you that because I just forgot your name. How much is this community saving by going with this resin?
Councilmember Lara, thank you for that question. This is Rich Nagel at Jacobs Engineering. So the residents of Pico Rivera will save at least $400,000 a year minimum by picking the resin that's before your council agenda.
Thank you. And how many times would we have to exchange that per year?
Yeah, this resin will last roughly, if the system, the 7 wells that will receive the treatment plant, the waterworks itself, this resin will last at a minimum 30 months. So at least roughly 2.5 years.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Just thank you.
Point well taken by Councilmember Lara, but as is mentioned, significant, so I move to approve this item.
I second that.
Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Councilman Lutz, did you have 18? Oh, no, 18 is, you left that out.
Yes, we are continuing item 18 to next council meeting.
Do you have any that you wanted to talk about or pull?
There was an item that I did not, but was already approved on the consent calendar.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, you didn't have any.
no.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. Let's see, before I get into the regular agenda, I need public comments. Yes. We have written communications received by Jose Sanchez supporting item number 22, term limits for city council. Also regarding number 24, the American Rescue Plan funds. Also, the southbound lanes on Rosemead, raised asphalt, trench botched repair. And Assembly Member Garcia is also in support of item number 22, term limits for city council. Can we get to the regular agenda now? Yes? Okay, number 20, approval of the proposed resolution authorizing participation in the Institute of Local Government Beacon Program.
Yes, Mayor, City Council, this is going to allow us to participate in getting an award for what they refer to as the Beacon program. This would definitely give us the ability to apply for additional grants. This is run through our Office of Sustainability. It's something that we're currently actively doing. We are making a lot of progress on our sustainability efforts throughout the city. And again, there's no fiscal impact, and it will definitely be able to help us when we apply for future grant opportunities.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay.
Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Number 21, discussion item, amend the zoning code to allow the conversion of garages. This was,
Yeah, this is my item. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to table this item for future discussion. I'd like to look at this item a little bit more closely, have discussion with staff regarding some of the specifics. If I may get a second, please, on tabling this item.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias?
Yes.
Motion carries.
okay. Number 22, term limits for city council.
City Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, good evening. At the request of the City Council at the previous meeting, this matter is before you for review and consideration. The request was to conduct further research on options for the city in considering possible term limits for the office of City Council. As indicated in our report, this item, if the council wishes to move forward, would require to have voter approval that is set forth in the government code. It is not something that the city council unilaterally can adopt and implement. So any action would have to be placed by initiative to be approved by the city council. If it is so adopted by the voters, then it works prospectively. It doesn't work retroactively. And tonight, all we're doing is providing this report. The council need not take any action until some date in the future. The initiative wouldn't, let's see, the next election would, for the city offices would be November of 2022. And if my timetable is right, normally it's the first Friday in August of that year that you'd have to make that final decision. That concludes my staff report. I'm here to address any questions the council may have.
Do we have a motion to put it on the ballot?
I'd like to move to approve 22-1.
Second.
Is it just for this one or all of the other ones?
If I may ask, what's the technicality?
No, because it's offering 3 options.
I second.
So we're specific to item 1.
Thank you. Got it. Understand.
Second. Can you repeat your motion?
Move to approve item 22-1.
Okay.
Councilmember,
So you want to place the term limits on the ballot?
To direct, draft an initiative and ordinance to be presented to the voters to establish term limits for members for the city council.
Do I have a second?
we have a second.
I second.
And if I may add,
Discussion?
not discussion, but a suggestion, if we could have our city attorney to look into what other local cities are doing, or local jurisdictions, and have already passed in terms of term limits, like local cities like Montebello, Downey, other cities like us.
Mr. Mayor, we would do so. I mean, this is something, as I indicated, take place further down the line, so we'll have time to do research. You don't need to actually adopt the ordinance or the resolution seeking adoption, so we'll bring, it will come back at a future date sometime next year.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a second. Is there a vote? Okay.
Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Number 23, Smith Park Aquatic Center Pool Project Status Update.
Yes, Mayor, City Council, at this time, I'll turn it over to Pamela Ugar, our Director, to give an overview.
Great. Oh, Honorable Mayor and Council, thank you. Thank you, City Manager. I'd like to give just a brief update of where we're at with Smith Park, the pool. Let me just get my notes. Thank you, Gabe. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you.
So all of you know that our pool is in quite disrepair, but I would like to give you just a brief background on how we got to this point. In fall of 2019, we were still open. We had our summer season. It was very successful. And then we are not open from September through April, so we typically take that time to do repairs and things like that. But in that summer of 2019, 2 boilers went down. And so the kids, during the lessons, the seniors during their aerobics was saying the water was freezing. The water was so cold that it was just getting really unbearable. So we knew we had to do something, and we started looking for funding in 2019, early 2019. While we did find some funding, which you just actually approved a resolution for that tonight, and COVID happened. So COVID closed all pools, in LA County and in California. And then the summer came. Well, if you can go to the next slide, Gabe. During that summer, and I actually happened to be here, 2 of our pumps failed. One pump failed, is not working. We cannot get it repaired. It has to be replaced. The other pump on the right is faltering so badly that it's creating inadequate water turnover and water pressure, which made us start realizing that there's something going on with the water, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But with these 2 pool pumps being down, we can't get anything regulated. We are unable to open the pool at this time because we can't even get a permit from LA County from the health department. If you can go to the next slide. As we were doing this assessment, when I was looking at getting the initial thing of getting the boilers done, and then the pumps went down, I said, there's a bigger issue here. There's a really a massive problem. Then we started looking at the water leakages and realizing the gutters are done, the coping's done. It needs to be replastered. There's so many fissures. There's big cracks at the bottom of the pool, on the side of the pool. Despite the fact that there's problems with the building and ADA requirements and the diving boards and things like that, the major problem is the casing and the pool actual vessel, as well as the pumps and the boilers. I'm sorry. So we decided we need to look at this pool, we need to get an overall assessment of this pool, because what we're doing right now is just putting bandages on things, and when you fix one thing, it leads to another thing. So we really need to get our pool fixed in a good fashion. So we'll go to the next slide. So that's where we're at today. What we've done is we've hired a pool contractor, a certified pool aquatic contractor. They're coming out actually this week. They'll be out on Friday. They're going to be looking at all the different safety concerns that are needed with the pool. They will be giving us a full assessment that I will be bringing back to you. Now, it takes them 50 days to complete this assessment. And so it takes a little bit of time because they have to get their engineers to look at it. They will bring it back, and they're going to bring us back 3 different options. If you can go to the next slide for me, Gabe. Oh, sorry. Let me tell you about the 3 different options really quick. They're going to talk to us about what it would cost to renovate the pool, the removal and the replacement. Thank you, Gabe. The removal and replacement of the existing pool, and the removal and the replacement of the pool with enhanced features. So we'll get 3 different cost factors to look at so that you can make a decision at that point. Okay, but if you can go to the next slide. So this is what we have right now. We have $880,000 approximately to put towards this. This absolutely would get us our boilers. So we would absolutely be, once we get this funding, it's just a matter of, like, we passed a resolution tonight. We could get this funding allocated to us in the next couple of months and get the project starting. The boilers can be done. What we're working on is we've submitted for $8.5 million from Prop 68. We should be hearing back in about 4 to 5 weeks. And then also we have people fighting for us at the state, and of course our senator is fighting for us to try to get us some funding as well. I'm sorry, I missed no, I did say that. Okay, great. So that's what we have right now. So we've gotten the pool assessment. That's great. Then what we would do is bring it back to the Community Services Ad Hoc Committee once we've got those three options, and then we would bring a recommendation back to you to make some decisions. I'm here to answer any questions you have about the pool or what's going on with the assessment.
Well, just let me comment. We've heard different versions here of the pool situation, and as you might know, we're getting a lot of pressure from the community on this particular issue. So it is important that that the committee, the ad hoc committee, work with this very closely and be able to report on a monthly basis the progress on this.
Sure.
Thank you. Please.
And I have a question. A couple of private entities, businesses reached out to me and certainly looking to see how they could fundraise or get business entities to donate to the city for the purpose to help repair the pool. So I think last meeting we reached out, we asked the finance director to look into a way that we could have donations or receive donations. Maybe this is something that we can discuss more in the Community Services Committee, so we can get further funds for this cause. I think some of our social media and media around the pool did get us some good recognition, but if we could get resources from other sources, I think we should try to get whoever we can to help us out to get our pool open. You're okay with that?
Member?
Thank you, Mayor. I had a question for you, Director Ugar. As the mayor had mentioned, there are different sums that were told to us in quantity, millions, 800,000, 10 million. I'm not too sure what are the different scenarios are. Can you break down the different scenarios? If it was a complete, perfect renovation job, minimal requirement job, or middle of the road job again for us?
Well, I don't think I'm the right person to do that. We hired the pool assessment company to do that, and they're going to be providing us three options. So they absolutely will bring that. We did do a cost estimate for the Prop 68 grant, and we have since found that that was a very low estimate. So even if we get the 8.5 million from the Prop 68, it will only do portions of it. So, it's going to be very costly, but I think we shouldn't do a patch job with this pool. I think the community deserves a pool that's in good shape, that has everything working in it. But I would say, from my opinion, I would get the pool fixed, because we can work on the locker rooms later. Let's get the pool running and then move on to the locker rooms and those things.
Okay, so it's projected to have the pool ready by when?
I don't have a projection for that.
Okay. And there is an option to renovate the building as well?
Yes, I do have a cost for that, yes.
Okay.
Yes, Councilmember, we have phase one is to get the pool open in a safe manner and as fast as possible. Phase two would be a more elaborate design with the entire facilities. But the goal would be to open it up as soon as possible. We'll get a better timeline once we have the assessments made by the engineer and pool contractor.
Do we, as a city, feel confident that one way or another, the minimal corrections to be made would be made for the upcoming summer? Or is it still too early until we wait for an assessment from the firm that's going to give us estimates?
I think it's too early because, like I said, we can definitely afford to do the boilers, but we don't know what's wrong with the pool yet. We don't know where the water leakage is coming from, so I think it's better that we get the overall assessment and then you all can make a better decision.
Thank you. Thank you for the update.
Sure.
So we will be expecting a monthly report on this
Got it.
from your committee, okay?
Thank you.
A question, Director Ugar, in regards to funding, the pool was used for the 1984 Olympics. Have we considered reaching out to the 2028 committee to see if we can use it again for the?
No, I haven't, but that's, sure. I
think
have not done that.
We've been exploring the idea for the Question Olympics here in the city, and I think it would be appropriate for us to meet and
Okay.
seek and see how, I mean, it's already set up that way, so I think that's an opportunity there that we need to seek.
Did you say the Special Olympics or the reg?
2028
Okay,
Olympics Committee.
thank you.
And thank you for this update. I know that, ideally, replacing and building a brand-new pool would be the ideal scenario for our community. But, as we add that, there's a lot of wish lists that we have in this city. I think what we need to really focus on is get the assessment and determine, because I'm hearing about this leakage in the pool, and the question that I have is, how bad is that leakage, right? Are we losing an inch per day, an inch per year? I know speaking to some members of the Pico Water District, which is in that area, we have a former member here herself, is to working out something where, our cost is minimal to that water. So for example, if we're losing, I'm just hypothetically using an inch per year or an inch per month, but we can replace that, and the value to our community is greater than the cost of the loss of water, something to consider. I say this because if we get caught up in trying to replace and build a brand-new pool, we're never going to have a pool. So we need to focus on phase one, and making sure that whatever we need to get that pool up and running and not, get caught up on the facade and little things that are important, but we got to get this pool open. So we need to focus on a plan that gets this pool open and used in 2022, summer 22. It's an aggressive, but it's I think doable, and if we put our focus on it together and allocate the funds for it, because there is funds available that we can use, because it's been stated here before by all my colleagues. Not only is it a great place to refresh yourself in the summer, but it's a safety issue. Learning these kids, our children in the city, learning how to swim is very important. All three of my daughters have participated in the program. There's a level of comfort to know that they know how to swim, and I think we need to make sure that this pool becomes available. So let's not get caught up on the bigger picture. That would be ideal. If we get this $8.5 million grant, we'll have a different conversation. But let's focus on just getting this pool open that is safe for our users, and hopefully we can get it back open in summer of 2022.
Councilman?
Yeah, thank you. I kind of felt that this pool repair should have been done about 6 months ago, when the school district reached out to us, asking us if they could use our swimming pool. We knew about some of these problems then. I kind of felt that we should have streamlined this so that the pool would have been open for this summer. Regarding the money, we sit on a $20 million reserve account, and one of the stipulations to that account is infrastructure. For me, this is infrastructure. This is community benefit. In addition to that, we're sitting on $14 million of American Rescue Plan Act funds. We have the money. And I'll just make this last statement and I'll stop. My 6-year-old, he didn't know how to swim, and one of my goals this summer was to teach him, make sure he would be able to dog paddle if he fell in the swimming pool. So we had to use a friend's private swimming pool in the city of Pico Rivera, and he's swimming. And I kid you not, today, this was an actual conversation. He's doing really well, and I'm proud of him. He asked me, when am I going to open up the Smith Park swimming pool so he could swim there? And I said, well, we need to repair the motor. He said, when are you going to do that? And it just really comes down to willpower. It really just comes down to, we have the money. Let's get the assessment done. Let's do phase one. Let's open this thing up ASAP, please. Thank you.
Councilman?
I would reiterate what I was originally inclined to ask, which is, can we get this opened up for the summer of next year? And I think if we can do the minimal requirements that are at the minimal safety standards so that we have longevity for the construction or repair, I think that would be the best bet. And as the rest of the council and the mayor have mentioned, getting it up and running for 2021, 2022 summer is the objective. And if we get more funds, because I know the American Rescue Plan funds are half here, 7.4 million or so are already in our funds, and then the rest are going to come next year around this same time, if I understand correctly. So we don't have all 14, we have half. But nonetheless, I think setting the goal for the summer of 2022, so the kids and the adults too can jump in the pool.
Yes, that is the goal. We will definitely do our best to reach it. And
You know, one of the concerns that I have is that we received the money and we were supposed to service the people that were impacted, you know, by the COVID pandemic. I yet have to see, which I have asked you time and time again, to have, a community meeting, town hall, to determine what exactly is the need there, okay? I do not understand how we're establishing priorities without getting the community's input into it. Now, we've talked about the fact that, you know, a lot of residents think that the swimming pool is important, okay? Do we have the money? Well, if it's a priority, we have to have the money, okay? So when are we going to have the ability to get the community to tell us what they need?
yeah, I issued a memo about 2 weeks ago with a timeline of our community outreach efforts, and that has a timeline. I think we're releasing that information in pretty soon, correct?
Yes, and if I may, Mayor, we also submitted a survey to the City Council to request some feedback from the City Council. We have not heard back from any members.
Wait a minute. Say that again.
We also submitted a survey to the City Council to request feedback, and we have not received any feedback.
And that's what holding us back right now from the community?
No, but it's part of the survey process.
Okay. The next meeting, I want you to have the survey on the dais so we can respond to you,
Absolutely.
okay?
If I may add, Mayor, I did see the email, and there was an extension because we had not responded, myself included. I think they extended it to like tomorrow or something like that, so obviously we're going to need more time, but it is available for us to begin working on, right? So.
Anything else? No? Number 24, the American Rescue Plan, initial funding and interim reporting.
Yes, Mayor, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Finance, Angelina Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. It's fitting that we're continuing on this dialogue of the American Rescue Plan Fund. So tonight, it's not intended to designate or commit any of the ARP funds that we have received or will be receiving over the next year. This is more to talk about the guidance that's available as of now, and to let you know that everything that we've seen, I think there's been over, 24 webinars that we've been participating in, and all the messaging is the same. They're going to continue to refine it. Don't even have reporting tools available to us yet. So this is a brief overview. We included 2 enclosures in your packet, one for the reporting requirements that we have so far, and the second is the interim final rule, which gives you the parameters for how we can spend those funds. So just going over the agenda tonight, we are going to, just revisit some of the accomplishments that we've made, some of the services that we've provided to the community, and sometimes monetary benefits to the community through this period of COVID. We'll also go into the background on the ARP Act itself, how much we've received, what are some of the allowable uses, unallowable uses, and what our plan is. So here are some of the COVID-19 accomplishments. Parks and Rec staff have worked really hard to provide over 59,000 emergency senior meals. through the Emergency Senior Meal Program, as well as close to 133,000 grab-and-go lunches to the students that were sheltering in place. Secured over 200 hotspots and data plans to low-income students in the local school district, and also assisted with getting people either testing or vaccinations. We've also reached out to local businesses to make sure that they were able to stay reopened through the phase 1 closures, the shelter-in-place closures that limited dining to just pickup or outdoor dining in a very short period of time. We're recognized by the Assemblymember Garcia for Parks and Rec staff for their pandemic assistance and communication via our website. And, some of the efforts that we launched were the Shop and Dine Pico Rivera and expedited indoor-outdoor permits. And here's a final list for you to review. Now, going into the background of the ARP funds. So as you know, the act was signed by the president on March 11th of this year in response to the COVID pandemic. The city's allocation is roughly, it will be $14,772,455. Half of that was received in June and has been deposited in the local agency investment fund for a slight nominal interest. And we'll be receiving the second share in June of 2022. On May 11th, the Department of Treasury came out with an interim final rule on how the funds must be spent. And followed by June 27th, they also issued a reporting requirement guidance, which is enclosure 1 to your agenda packet, talking about the reporting requirements. And so it was important for us to bring this forward to you tonight because the first reporting milestone is August 31st. We'll have to report an interim report basically stating how much we calculated our revenue loss to be and what we're going to be designating those funds for. And I'll go over that in a minute. Now, just briefly talking about allowable uses or permissible uses, the ARP Act itself is very broad in nature at this point, with a focus on 4 key programs, as you can see outlined: respond to the public health emergency or negative economic impacts, respond to workers performing essential work during COVID-19, necessary investment in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure, and water and sewer extends out to storm drain, as was later clarified by the final rule, and for provision of government services to the extent of a reduction in revenue due to COVID-19. So we've run the calculations several different times per the guidance established by the GFOA, the General Government Finance Officers Association, and we came up with an estimate of $10.2 million that can be categorized for this last category for government services. What that means is that we can then use them for one of the 6 categories designated to the right. For now, and the interim report that we will submit in August is in no way final. This is more for us to give the federal government an idea of how much revenue loss is in proportion to the allocated funds that we get. We don't know if there is going to be another round proposed. There's been talks about a separate round just for critical infrastructure, not really had a definition for what infrastructure means at this point, or maybe Wi-Fi internet for all. So that would kind of, make us reprioritize, the fiber needs, established here. So what we're going to do on August 31st is report out the 10.2 million. And, the guidance has a very clear example that we can just, formulate even in memo format that, our revenue reduction, it was calculated at 10.2 million. And we can then use that to pay for other public safety services. Our sheriff's contract runs above that, above the $10.2 million. So looking at the guidance and looking at all of the webinars provided so far, we are going to report out that $10.2 million to be used for the last category for the provision of police, fire, other public safety for now, with the opportunity to refine it in future reporting. Then we go on to some of the restricted uses. So the regulation very clearly states that these are the things that it's not to be used for: to deposit in pension funds, debt service, replenish reserves, or utility revenue loss. Now, how did we come up with an initial list to provide to this body? Not tonight, but in the future study session where we'll be discussing this further. So we started by going back to the rules that govern, at least, my finance world, the city council priorities, how we allocate limited resources to unlimited amount of needs. So in developing the set of criteria to present to this body in future sessions, and in order to better line up our needs with the limited resources, we once again started with the council priorities. As we presented over the last 8 months, there are numerous unfunded needs, primarily in large infrastructure and facility projects, that we can look at and consider applying these funds to. So this is not an all-encompassing list whatsoever. This is us accumulating by segment, by natural capital project category, all of the unfunded needs that have been presented to this body internally in updated master plans. We've had the sewer, storm drain, water, fiber, pavement management, infrastructure master plans. We're going to continue the great work in IT assessment and provide an IT list of IT infrastructure needs, as well as facilities assessment with an annual capital outlay recommendation, hopefully within the next 6 to 8 months. So what this is just all of the accumulated unfunded list of capital projects that we see so far. Now, we concentrated on capital infrastructure projects as one-time monies, such as these, the ARP funds, should be used for one-time projects, and that's not just my opinion. Additionally, the Government Finance Association, or GFOA, issued guiding principles to apply to ARP funds and noted that care should be taken to avoid creating new programs or add-ons to existing programs that require ongoing financial commitments. So creating new departments or divisions or new positions that would create new compensation that would run on in perpetuity, or for the long term, where we have one-time monies to apply to that, just isn't practical. They go on to mention that investment in critical infrastructure is particularly well-suited use of these funds because it is a non-recurring expenditure that can be targeted to strategically important long-term assets that could provide benefit over many years. So then we also thought it'd be important to revisit our latest 5-year forecast that we presented during the adoption of the budget. This shows an ongoing deficit beginning in fiscal year 23-24. Why do we want to show it? Because we want to just give you a snapshot as to what we're looking at, the potential deficit already created, and on top of that, there is very little opportunity to fund for the critical infrastructure projects that cannot be funded by other funding sources. Now, in terms of reporting requirements, once again, as is included in your packet, the interim report is due on August 31st. We're concentrating on the second bullet point since we have no expenditure so far, just to report out the revenue loss that was calculated at $10,227,000 approximately, and that we will be allocating them at this point to government services for provision of public safety. Then once we do adopt a formal plan for what these monies will be used for, once we start federalizing projects, more than likely, and get some expenditures, incur expenditures, we'll have to submit quarterly reports, as with any federal funds, with quarterly reports starting October 31st of 2021 and every 3 months thereafter. So the next steps for us, for this body is, staff is going to work on submitting an interim report August 31st. We are anticipating having information ready for a study session September 28th, with the refinement. The first study session will include staff's list of projects, unfunded projects that come by way of master plans or needs assessments or things of that nature. At that study session is where City Council will weigh in on considering prioritizing the projects or maybe adding on to the list of projects that each of you might have. We're going to refine it on the second study session, and if we can come up with a final list that is agreeable by this body, that this body can approve, we will have a finalized list by November 9th and hopefully submit it to the U.S. Department of Treasury before December 31st, 2021. So that concludes my presentation. I welcome any questions you might have.
I just have a question with the dates of the first proposed study session, which I just checked, it was one of our council meetings. Is there any way to move it up? Maybe a meeting, maybe the first meeting in September? I think this is a priority of all of us, and
Yeah, I'm going to turn to my Director of Finance to see if she can be ready for that. The one thing I also like to bring to light is that there's a lot of rescue plan money in the LA County. Right now, they are, doing their own study sessions on how they're going to allocate those resources. A lot of it is going to be going to what they consider disadvantaged communities. So it's prudent to kind of wait to see where they're going to allocate that money because, we may be able to take advantage of those resources and use our resources for other priorities. But we can definitely update council on seeing if we could expedite that to an earlier date.
Question?
Just a comment, if I may. My concern is that we don't have adequate, I'm concerned that we shovel-ready projects. I don't think we have the staff for it. This is an issue I talked to the city manager about, and it's an issue relating to engineers, staff. We're going to be flush with money, but I'm concerned that there's going to be time constraints associated with that money, and we may not have enough shovel-ready projects to be able to allocate for those funds, just because our staff is stretched.
Councilman, I'm a little uncomfortable with the term flush with money.
Well, the reason why I say that is because we raise water rates, so we're going to get a surplus from that. We have American Rescue Funds. The loaf is half cooked, but over in Washington, they're going to pass an infrastructure bill, hopefully, in the trillions of dollars. And we may be privy to that money for infrastructure. So, they're trying to stimulate the economy as a result of COVID, and there's going to be cash out there. And then it's going to be, do we have shovel-ready projects ready to go to be able to eat up those funds so that we can improve? And I'm just concerned that we may not have the staff.
Councilmember, if I may.
Yes.
So what I can propose is that this list could include, collaboration across the board, and we can take a look at which of the projects that we have that are shovel-ready. We do have an opportunity to also bring in, limited-term staffing to assist, but that would be, for consideration and an additional component to this set of priorities that could be established. We're also going to add in, the council priority that it meets to make sure that it is as transparent and as useful as possible when you make your decisions. And anything else that you feel could be helpful, such as like the scope of work for each of these projects. We do have the benefit of just having gone through a year of master plans, and I say we because the Public Works team worked really hard with the engineering consultants to come up with a 15-year list. Then the finance department assisted with the financial plans that were brought forward to you by Raftelis, and we're still waiting for the water for the storm drain and sewer. So in terms of prioritization, they work on just from the engineering perspective and from the infrastructure need perspective, what is the best return on investment for each of those capital projects. So we are more than happy to provide that list in that order. I still have yet to review a final sewer financial plan, but I expect to receive it later on this week to help formulate the list. So it'll be a long list, probably by segment, or just like we showed in a previous slide, by natural capital project category, to help just aid those conversations. So as you remember, when we proposed the budget on the date that it was adopted, we included in the staff report and in the long-term strategic plan a long list of unfunded projects. Those just carry forward, and then we add to them as we're getting these master plans finalized. So that's our starting point that we will bring forward, again with a council priorities, as included in the criteria, as well as which are shovel ready, and then just the staffing time requirements that are needed, and whether we have the staffing or not.
Thank you very much. That'd be appreciated.
And if I may add just on that point, I know that when we, during the unknown, during COVID, we took the necessary actions to hold off and not move as aggressive. And now that we know what's coming, we got a better understanding of our budget and the funds that are coming in, I would agree that we definitely have to look at making sure we have the proper staffing, both temporary, but also fill some of these vacancies. Because in addition to the money that's coming and the projects, we have a lot of capital improvement projects in the pipeline that need to materialize. So once again, I do agree that we need to look at temporary staffing and filling some vacancies to make sure that we're successful in executing these projects. But we can leave that for the conversation when we get into our study session.
Yes.
Member Lutz?
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. The next study session, September 28th, I'm looking forward to that. And I'm really looking forward to be providing that report that has every department's projects timeline from 2020 to 2027, shows all the projects. And I'd like to see that to give me a visual of the current projects that are being undertaken that we often forget about, and the ones that are up and coming. I just want to make sure if we can be provided that. That is visually fantastic, and it gives me just a concrete idea of what we're working on. And I know there's so many projects that the city is working on, we just sometimes forget. But that document there.
And that was absolutely our starting point, I apologize, to put together this initial list. We went through all of the project pipelines, or the City of Pico Rivera Gantt charts.
Yes.
To come up with this.
Visually, we could show that to you.
Thank you, thank you. And I just wanted to go back to unfunded needs. Parks and facility projects, 10.9. That's not even the Smith Park pool.
No. So we said this is a starting point because, as Director Ugar mentioned, we do need a more concrete estimate based on the scenarios. That is something that we'll layer on top. Other things that are also not included in here are the IT assessment. We're having that done right now. That will produce results in terms of the IT infrastructure that we need, and maybe hardware, software, Wi-Fi, hotspots, you name it. In addition to that, with the facilities assessment, they'll assess our 8-9 buildings in the city and be able to give us a price tag, a prioritization list of what buildings need to be improved first and what the annual capital outlay requirement will be. The last thing I'll say is that all of these funds have to be committed or budgeted by December 2024. And they have to be spent by December 2026. So that's another criteria that we internally will have to add on to this to be able to ensure that those projects that we're listing up here as potential can be done internally or through outsourced staffing by the 2026 deadline.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Like a vote on the report?
Just a receive and file, no vote.
Okay. Next item, city manager staff reports.
Yes, Mayor, City Council, as you are aware, we had a community bike event not too long ago. I wanted to thank all the city departments that came together to provide that. A special thanks to our Assistant City Manager, Javier Hernandez, for also being the lead and facilitating that. I think we have a video to show, Javier.
We do. Cue that up. Gabe, thank you.
It's a great day in Pico Rivera. We've got bikers. If you can see right behind me back there, we have the kids, we have families. They're going to jump on their bikes and they're going to ride out the city of Pico Rivera. Look at the crowd, look at the number of bikers we have.
Community members are dusting off their bikes and getting out here. So excited that we're coming together. I'm going to reimagine our riverbed here in the area and our bike path.
I'm trying to use the model of the happy city, where we depend less on our vehicles and more on our bicycles, so this is just perfect. When the cyclists are roaming the city here, is that if they would actually give me ideas on how we can improve the city, we're going to have more activities like this, and again, we're going to have greater community involvement.
Everybody's here, everybody's looking like they're ready to ride, and I'm happy to see everyone here, and especially the residents of Pico Rivera.
Today's event is primarily dedicated to raise awareness among the public about two very important projects that are taking place here in the city of Pico Rivera. The first one is the Whittier Narrows Dam Safety Modification Project. Basically, it's a federal project to fix the Whittier Narrows Dam. The second project is the Pico Rivera Regional Bikeway Project, and that's going to improve Mines Avenue, which is right behind me right here. We're going to incorporate a bike path that will connect the Rio Hondo and the San Gabriel River. And we're also going to be building a bridge that crosses over the San Gabriel River, thereby providing better connections and access throughout the community.
The Sheriff's Department has brought out our bikes, our ATVs. We get to take a little bit of time to get out of the radio cars and hit the pavement with the community to bring awareness to the changes that are going to be upcoming with the Whittier Dam as well as the bike paths. It's going to be a great day and we're all looking forward to being together.
We've always been like a close, tight group, but like we always just like to hang out and just try to find new hobbies that we like to do together, and biking was there, so we decided I'll get one, and here we are doing this together.
I just saw a friend of mine just ride up, so yeah, it's fun. I've lived in Pico Rivera for maybe about 45 years now. I want to hear more about this rebuild of the bike trail and things like that. And what they're doing for the city of Pico Rivera.
Just a great opportunity to take the kids out on a bike ride, so excited about this opportunity to just kind of see the city from a different viewpoint this time around instead of being in a car. I'm really excited for it.
I just really like riding with the wind in my face and stuff. I like it. I'm excited to ride my bike with Dad and sister.
Can you imagine when this thing is completed, we'll be able to get all the families out here. What a great way to do this. Pico Rivera, thank you for what you do. The City Council's very much involved with this. I appreciate it. The Assemblywoman, Cristina Garcia, is doing her part. And again, all of us. Caltrans, thank you for joining in and making this a joint venture project for Pico Rivera.
We're one of the sponsors of this event, and so we've been out there encouraging the community. We've been engaging with our federal partners and our state partners and our county partners to ensure that they're also at the table as we imagine this space and we create a vision that is reflective of the community's desires out there. And so at the state level, we also get to advocate for funding along the way. There's this myth out there that we don't care, and I think a lot of our community cares, and they want the opportunity to be empowered, to be engaged, and to be at the table being decision makers. And so it's a lot of pride seeing everyone out here taking their responsibility to be part of the process seriously, but also having a little bit of fun, being a little bit healthy. And so it's just a great morning for all of us to come together and celebrate the greatness that this area and this community has.
Yes, more events to come, Mayor.
It was it was a great event. In fact, again, I was excited to see all those people. In fact, there were bets. There were bets early in the morning there, and they exceeded all expectations of it. So, so thank you very much. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. I think that was a wonderful video, great event. Thank you. Looking forward to our official, as I keep putting it out there, Piclavia. So I hope to participate in the next one, and thank you. I know it's a lot of work, and I think it's a great event.
Councilman, you were writing.
I sure was, and I did all 10 miles of it. And so fortunately, it was a pretty easy pace, and I made it. I actually rode with Lieutenant Hutak beside me, and although she's a professional at this, while I was huffing and puffing, she was just cruising like nothing. That's it. But nevertheless, as you can see, it was a great event. The participation was there. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez, and the entire staff and the team, Parks and Recs, for putting this together. I believe that this was a great opportunity. It was a show and tell opportunity throughout the city, but no doubt, as we saw, this is something that we should continue doing. I think especially right now with COVID, it's more activities, outdoor activities, and I don't see why we should not do this on maybe a quarterly basis. Maybe not to the degree of the logistical closures that had to take place, especially crossing Roseby Boulevard. But as you know, the sheriff department handled it very well. And it was just, all the way through, great job. So I think I applaud staff, and it was definitely a good one.
Councilman?
Great job, staff. Excellent job. The thing about all of that is the excitement of possibility, right? The excitement of the possibilities that are within our city to provide just bike paths, ability for people to use their city like they've never done before. But it takes organization, it takes safety, making sure that there's not homeless people, so that when people can ride those trails. So very good job. Thank you.
Councilman Lutz?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd have to say, that was one polished event. And that video showcased the energy. I was so inspired by that video. I want to see more events. And I'm sure that you guys are cooking up new events in the upcoming months. I'm looking forward. I'm going to get my popcorn. And at the next city council meeting, I'm going to watch that great video again and that inspiring music. So great job, Assistant to the City Manager, Javier Hernandez, and Pam Ugar, the Director of Parks and Rec, and the rest of the team. A+. Thank you.
Now, Mr. City Manager, we've talked about the need to do a little bit more public relations and promoting our city with videos like this, and you agreed.
Yes, so we agree. You see Public Works is putting information out on our activities that we're doing on social media, and definitely it's something that we are improving on a daily basis.
A few years ago, we won the business-friendly community. I'd like to be able to win the family-friendly community.
Yes, I was the director then, and I'll bring home another victory.
Thank you.
So next item, Mayor, City Council wanted to talk now with the Delta variant, as you are well aware. We wanted to brief council on some of the measures that we have taken, some of the measures for council to consider in the future, how to deal with this emergent virus. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Ryan Hudson just to kind of go over some of these areas of concerns.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I have a very brief update on COVID-19. The first part of the conversation will focus on our staff protocols, and the second part will focus on the City Council chamber. So there's been one update since we last spoke, and that is that on July 30th, the Public Employee Relations Board held that mandating vaccines is outside the scope of representation for labor groups. So what does that mean? It means the city could unilaterally determine whether or not we want to have a vaccine mandate, and that the labor groups do not have the right to negotiate over that choice of us having a vaccine mandate. I could tell you I informally floated the concept of a vaccine mandate with SEIU It was not met very positively. I also asked CEA what their position on a vaccine mandate was, and they did not get back to me. But again, PERB has allowed the city to make this decision unilaterally. So once, just to highlight again, the thing that currently is in place keeping us all safe is the COVID prevention program, and that rolls all of the city's policies into one program. I do want to communicate to you that about 78% of staff has reported to have been fully vaccinated. I actually think that number is higher. So we did have an incident. I provided a memo to the city council regarding, unfortunately, a positive COVID case at the senior center with a fully vaccinated person who did get sick. 26 people were exposed. 12 of them we did not have vaccine records for. After we did the contact tracing, we determined that only 2 of the 26 people who were exposed were unvaccinated, and they were sent off for 2 rounds of COVID-19 testing. So one of the things that I just want to communicate is that staff, feels like this is a privacy issue, and some of them don't want to share their private vaccine status, even though that's a very helpful tool for us. So about 80% has given us that information, but I believe about 90% of the staff is fully vaccinated. One caveat is we're doing a lot of hiring for summer programs, and that might affect our overall vaccinated rate. So I provided three options that the city is considering regarding vaccines for city staff. The first option would be to maintain the status quo of the COVID prevention program. So that means we follow all the LA County health orders, we follow the CDC, we follow Cal OSHA mandates, we enforce the social distancing protocol, we maintain the physical barriers here in the council chamber and the ones we've erected at staff sites. Whenever we have a positive COVID case, we do the PCR COVID-19 testing. It is the most accurate. We now do 2 rounds of that testing when people are exposed to make sure that someone's not incubating the virus. And then I did provide a memo to the city council regarding our decision to close the city council meeting tonight because of the high caseload. I'll talk about that more in a moment, but the city council might want to consider, while cases are so high, to keep that closed. But there are other options for the council chamber. So the second option that we are considering would be that you either need to be fully vaccinated or that you will be required to do PCR testing weekly. So that means that the COVID prevention program would remain in effect. We'd update the COVID prevention program to include that staff mandate that you either have to be fully vaccinated or that you have to submit to weekly PCR testing. The PCR testing can get quite expensive. So far, we've been able to get the state to reimburse us for those costs, but it's unclear if we had a mandate where there wasn't a known exposure, if the state would continue to cover those costs. If they did not choose to cover those costs, the PCR testing for all of our part-time and full-time staff could be up to $10,000 per week, depending on how many tests we needed. Staff with bona fide medical or religious limitations would be exempt. And we would unilaterally impose this on the labor groups without meeting and conferring with them, which we are allowed to do per the Public Employee Relations Board. The third option would be just a hard vaccine mandate. So essentially, we would update the COVID prevention program to say you must be vaccinated if you're going to be entering a city facility. Again, there would have to be a exemption for bona fide religious or medical reasons. And staff that was not able to telecommute and was not vaccinated would be terminated. So that this is sort of the option that many of the private hospitals are taking. The one thing that I do want to add is that I feel like staff is very well versed in our COVID-19 protocols. When we're dealing just with staff, not with members of the public, we have a very tightly controlled environment. We've been in the pandemic for about 18 months. We have not had any transmission at any city facility based on the contact tracing that my department has done. And so just from a staff perspective, I do think the current COVID prevention program with the PCR testing that we're doing whenever there's a known issue of COVID-19 at a site has been working. The employees are satisfied with it. I do think there would be some pushback from the labor groups if we took a more aggressive posture, but again, we would have that capacity to make a unilateral decision. In terms of the city council chamber, what we're looking to do for the next city council meeting is have a vaccine mandate in place, and any member of the public who wishes to enter the chamber who does not have proof of vaccination would be required to show that within the last 72 hours they've had a negative PCR test. That is something very similar to what people do when they're traveling. So we thought that would be a nice safety measure. And I'm just going to have to confer with legal counsel to determine if that would be viable for us to do after September 30th. Just a quick reminder that the governor's suspension of some of the Brown Act provisions end on September 30th. And so the state might tell us that we have to let the public in after September 30th. So I will prepare a memo to the city council regarding the viability of having the council chamber reopened at the next meeting with a vaccine mandate or a negative COVID test. And so that's
Let me ask you, we have a health committee. What do you say?
Well, in regards to the three options, I'd like to keep option one. Personally, I don't feel that we should mandate people to receive a vaccine. I live by the motto, my body, my choice. And I don't think I would not be in favor of mandating a vaccine. Secondly, in regards to council chambers, I'm against mandating a vaccine passport for people, for the public, and providing proof that you're COVID negative for non-vaccinated people. I think, in my opinion, that's a fundamental understanding of what vaccines do. A vaccinated person can still come down with COVID. So you're assuming that you're going to let people in because they have a vaccination, so you're assuming that they're COVID negative. But they could very well be COVID positive. So unless you're going to test everybody that comes in, then you're excluding people. Then you would exclude infectious people, right? And this whole thing about, and it's not just us, it's happening on a state, on a county level, where if people are not going to submit to the vaccine, then they're forced to get tested like once a week or twice a week. And to me, that's just, you're creating a nuisance for people. You're creating a nuisance. So in sum, I think we should stick with option number one, and the majority of the staff is vaccinated. Those very few people who, for whatever reason, want to stay non-vaccinated for this period of time, that's their choice unless there's a mandate from the state or from the county that just makes it unescapable. And secondly, as long as people put a mask on and social distance, the vaccine doesn't prevent it can, but it doesn't fully prevent the transmission of COVID. People who are vaccinated and are COVID positive can still infect other people. The vaccine prevents you from getting seriously ill and from dying. That's it. Lastly, in the ICU right now, we have 17 patients in the intensive care. We just lost a 30-year-old. He was actually 29, and we lost a 50-year-old the other day. Out of those 17 patients, only 2 are vaccinated. The vaccines work, and they work amazingly well. So I'm against mandating that people show a vaccination card to enter council chambers and to speak. I thought it was pretty well done last time. And COVID's here. It's never going to go away, unfortunately. And the numbers that are going up, I'm not interested in those numbers. I'm interested in hospitalizations. And the hospitalizations are majority from people who are not vaccinated. And this community's done a really good job of vaccinating themselves, right? We reviewed that last time. So then they should be rewarded. We should allow them to come in and participate.
We have a medical professional on the council. You have an ad hoc. Why am I hearing 2 stories?
Well, I think we need to meet again, and I think we need to talk offline. I will admit, I set up a meeting to discuss some of this. I got my time wrong. It was supposed to be 9 a.m. I thought it was 11 a.m. That's on me, okay? I missed that meeting. But I'd like to bring this back to the Health Committee. We can meet hopefully this week, if not next, and then we can have a full discussion and then bring it back to City Council. But with that, I'd like to hear from my other council members about a mandate, so that I at least know, what the general sense of the council is, if they want a vaccine mandate or not.
Well, go ahead.
I would agree that I think option one, status quo, is appropriate. I think with the PCR testing that is being provided, I think that gives, us a better indication. And, deferring to my colleague who deals with this on a regular basis, and I know that what has been stating as far as the vaccine itself, what it does, what it prevents, and whether it can be, passed through. I think people with vaccines, I guess the probability of safety is higher, right, as we have vaccines. So it does provide a level of comfort for me that we know that people who are coming in have been vaccinated, and at least it reduces the probability of it. But two, as we choose to respect our employees, that, it's good to know that you think it's 90% of our employees being vaccinated, and we choose to respect the other 10%. Well, I think as you address this in the committee, I think it's important to also get the opinion of all our staff that's in here as well. I think we owe it to them to make sure that they're comfortable to have the public, because I'll welcome the public here, but let's not dismiss every individual as here. Our opinion is one thing, but when it comes to this infection, they're equally exposed as we are. So I would like to get everyone here's opinion about how comfortable they feel.
Thank you.
Could we say option number 2 again? Can you go back to what was the option number 2?
So option number 2 would be the mandate, and if you choose not to get vaccinated, we would have mandatory PCR testing. And
then
so
what
the
would-
concern about that is it might, we'd have to pay people to go get the testing, so it'd be city time, and then we might have to cover the cost of the tests as well.
What about what was option 3 again?
Option 3 would be we terminate employees who refuse to be vaccinated.
What about similar to school districts, for instance, they're requiring weekly testing, students that are old enough to be tested and vaccinated, as well as the teachers. So option 2, a hybrid, would be not to require vaccine, but to require either the proof of vaccine or negative COVID test within the timeline.
That's correct.
So you wouldn't require all staff and terminate them, but if they don't have the vaccine, they have to do the inconvenience of doing the weekly test.
Option 2 would entail that if they chose not to be vaccinated, that they would have a mandatory PCR testing requirement. And then one of the things I also want to communicate while we're considering this is the PCR test is only if you're shedding virus at the second that you provide the sample. So you could be infected and it's incubating and you're not shedding. You could be infected 5 minutes or 1 day after you do the PCR test. So the PCR test is very, very accurate. It's an amazing tool for when we know that we've had COVID on site. As a preventative measure, it's, I'm not terribly sure how effective it is.
Right. I know that people are frustrated already by this, and I feel that the part of our responsibility is to protect not only our residents, but our staff as well. So although a large percentage of our staff are vaccinated, outside community members, maybe even people that don't live in our city, maybe they're guests traveling from other cities or other states, can come into the city and infect our staff and our individuals. So we have to consider, for instance, the case that just happened with the senior center. That impacts the staff. It shut down the softball league, exposed a number of individuals. What is our protocol if that happens, let's say, during one of the softball seasons? Is the league going to be completely shut down? Is the league responsible? Is the city responsible? Is the parent who didn't, make the kid wear the mask responsible? There's a lot of issues. I think at minimum, I feel like making the mask mandate, vaccine. If you choose not to have the vaccine, you need to show some type of, that you're showing some type of safety measure to come into a closed building to protect the staff as well as children or other people that may be unable to get the vaccine.
I'd like to add on that point, Mayor Pro Tem, is the LA County is considering to change. There's a motion that was on the floor. They're going to come back in a couple weeks and whether they mandate an option in indoor buildings. So it could be around the corner.
No, sir?
I would be of the viewpoint that option one is the most reasonable for our residents, and that's a perspective as a resident myself. As far as the council chambers, I think the smartest thing to do is to keep it exactly the way it is now, closed to the public. There's no way that you can tell who's who, and the best way is just to be safe rather than sorry, and just follow the lead of the county, follow the lead of the state. Option one, status quo, is my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll take those opinions and thoughts, and now we have something to work with. Thank you.
I look forward to meeting with you, council member.
And good work, Director Hudson. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the reports.
That includes, okay. New business. Shall I go around the dais? Mayor Pro Tem.
Have none at the moment.
No new business? Councilman Camacho.
Yeah, I have a few items, a few business, deal with the little old business, but, and I'll give an update at a meeting that we had, excuse me. I'll give an update as a meeting that we have that'll preface it to one of the new business items. So, as of last week, the business community on Beverly and Rosemead put together a meeting with about 30 businesses. Councilmember Lutz and I were in attendance and addressing Lieutenant Hutak, our city manager, Director Garcia, Public Works Director. And there was 3 items that were addressed and were brought to our attention. One, as it relates to the construction project on Beverly and Rosemead, there was some issues related to both the business signage. There was an impact to the community, to the business community. There was an issue of not having the right personnel to be able to move machinery back and forth within the public, these flagmen, as you consider. And then there was some issues with being able to do the entire intersection that created a challenge for anyone to cross the street and became a public safety issue. And so those are the issues that were brought to our attention. I know Director Heredia was there and trying to do what we can to mitigate. I would say that the contractor and the project manager, I believe they could have done a much better job in this project. I think it did impact, and we addressed that issue. There was some, of course, some discussion that also was related to public safety, some issues related to activity that's taking place. Lieutenant Hutak has, and her team has addressed it, homeless and many other, theft and just assaults that were happening in the area that was addressed. And then, of course, based on the impact, they requested to see if we can provide some financial assistance. And so I think it's important that this 30 businesses, some being residents that addressed and brought to our attention, and now they created the Beverly Rosemead Business Group that is going to be meeting, and we asked that they create almost like a business, like a neighborhood watch, but more of a business watch there to address one of these issues. I don't want to get too much into the details as to the concerns, but we empathize with those concerns. I believe that the concerns were valid. I think these contractor and general manager and project manager could have done a better job on this project. It is the biggest hotspot project on Rosemead, $13 million. And I've been around when we did Beverly Boulevard, and no doubt there was a lot of things that could have been done better. And so we're addressing those issues with them currently. There's been some response. Staff is working on that. There's the public safety response as well that Lieutenant Hutek is working on. But, it came about to the issue of, something that we all been discussing and looking at, but also sparked it. But I would like to ask and recommend and hopefully get a second that we look into creating and allocating additional funds for business community to the assistance. I know we talked about some of the funds that have come available, stimulus funds. There's a lot of priorities, but this is what this money has been allocated for as well. So I think it's important that we look at and see if we can allocate some funds to assist our business community throughout the city, as we did before with the previous funds, they're all done and allocated, $10,000. I think it's just important that we get ourselves on track. So I want to put that forward and hopefully.
As a motion?
As a motion to.
We have a second on the motion. Second on the motion. So we're going to agendize it?
To discuss and determine what
Okay, so-
amount we put and
So the motion was to agendize it?
Yep.
Okay.
Understood.
Is there a possibility to see if the contractor can offset some of those costs, given that there's some deficiencies?
I think Director Heredia is looking at that.
Thank you.
The schedule is still on time, but there are many deficiencies that definitely need to be addressed in that regard.
Councilman, you were part of that. Do you have any?
Yes, there were 3 quality meetings that we had with the business owners and residents, primarily business owners and their concerns. They addressed their concerns. They were very clear. It was disappointing that the contractor and the project manager, which is not our city staff, it's the contractor doing the work, and the project manager. In short, they did a lousy job. So now we're on top of it, thanks to the residents and business owners telling us what needs to be fixed ASAP. And so we given ourselves, a Friday deadline to take care of item 1, which is signage, proper placement of signage, so that traffic going down the street knows where to enter through the driveways, or what you call aprons. Traffic coming down can see which businesses are open. So our deadline to have that proper signage is Friday, and then we'll tackle those other items that Councilmember Camacho talked about, possibility of helping them out, these business owners, financially over time. We're crossing our fingers, maybe we can get that squared away for them. So thank you, Councilmember Camacho, for bringing that up.
So thank you for that, and wanted to continue. It's just an old business, but it's new in the request that we did speak briefly about it, and I did request it at the last meeting. I know Mr. Jose Sanchez, that lives on Rosemead Boulevard, has been addressing the issues and concerns as to the road on Rosemead Boulevard. We, in the past, initially supported the temporary repair on the north side of Rosemead Boulevard. We had, moving forward, we agreed to look into the repair of the south side. Since we all kind of in a consensus way back when agreed upon that, when we learned from staff that the project Rosemead Boulevard was going to move forward, and it was such a short period of time, we decided not to move forward on the south side because we're going to add it to the overall project. Since then, Councilman Mulata brought the issue of utilizing reclaimed water along the medians, which I think is something good to look at, but that's going to delay the project much further. In addition to that, speaking with staff, there's a Gallatin project as well that we just kind of looking at to incorporate into it, but looking at the timeline, that in my opinion, that's still too long for us to make this temporary repair. So I want to make sure that, put it out again that, based on that, I want to revisit and ask that we do a temporary fix on the south side of Rosemead Boulevard, because I think it is warranted. And we do it soon, because the bigger projects will address the bigger issues, but I think it's only prudent that we move in that direction.
I second that motion.
Okay, just to give a quick update, I act fast, so part of the item that you just adopted was the sidewalk improvement. We actually are including that in that repair program. So I think the timeline with that, Monica, is what?
Yes, so we're actually advertising that project, so those permanent repairs, not just at that along Rosemead Boulevard, but other two locations, will be advertised this Saturday, since it was approved. And we have our bid opening in September, so we can start construction in October and get it done by the end of the year.
Okay, so, okay, that's good and new news. And so I think with the same concept that I don't want to support approving additional costs, especially if we can fold it into their project, but, Director Herrera, you've got to stick to the timeline.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, assuming the bids come in clean and we don't have to reject bids and re-advertise, that's a good timeline.
Okay, but, it's.
If not, I guess we can
lot of-
discuss something afterwards. Yeah.
Just to add to this, it's not just the road repair. The shaking
It's the
has
trench.
created a situation where creating cracks all over those apartment buildings or.
And so just. to be
It's the
clear,
trench repair.
when you said you added it to the project, the addition is just a temporary fix?
No, it's the permanent fix
permanent.
of the trenches.
And how does that then, when we do all Rosemead Boulevard, how does that impact that project, if any?
Well, the trench will be repaired and then we will just cap or overlay the trench.
How much are we actually allocating for that trench repair?
I don't have the numbers, but we'll see them when we get the bids.
But we had looked at potentially costs of $20,000-$30,000 for
Correct.
temporary. But the trench repair is a lot bigger project.
Right, we'll see when we get the bids. It's a line item.
Mr. Sanchez the minimum he's asking for is just to be graded, grinded down.
Until we do the bigger
Yeah,
picture.
yeah, which is going to cost us, I think, like 15,000 if we went that route. But we're not going that route.
No.
We're going, so I would prefer just to grind it down, spend the least amount to give him some temporary relief until we figure out the recycled water, we do Rosemead, and it's all uniform, we do it once. Because I'd hate for there to be any type of imbalance. So my suggestion is that we just grind it down like what Mr. Sanchez has suggested, and it temporarily solves that for him and for those residents.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I disagree with that recommendation because that's, again, it's a temporary or a Band-Aid fix. He's already complaining that the north side is already showing some deterioration. So the permanent fix is what we are going to do.
And just to add, my concern is that when we get to the bigger Rosemead project, the project that we're just suggesting to repair is going to impact the bigger project. Are you saying it's going to complement, it's going to fix it, but then we're going to come back and do the work on top of that?
Yeah, it's
I
going
don't see how we're gonna leave
it's
that
going to
alone.
complement it because we're going to address the trench issue. And then when we come back and do the overlay, it's going to be a smooth transition or a smooth asphalt over the trench.
So as I mentioned, the construction is taking place on Rosemead Boulevard and Beverly. That project's not due to complete until October.
Correct.
How does then now this new big trench repair going to impede, once again, the construction and impact to the residents that they've been complaining to us about?
Correct. So if we're done by for the intersection of Rosemead and Beverly by October, this is about the time we're going to start that construction.
But
It'll be right after.
it's a big construction, the trench.
It's big enough, but the intersection should be done by then. We'll coordinate it so that we're not, we're finished with the intersection. The majority of the work will be done at the intersection, so it will not have an impact on the construction of the repair of the trenches further north on Rosemead.
I would like for us to not take the temporary repair off the table. I would like to know more about, because, the concerns of the businesses in that area and the residents were respectively understandable. And I want to make sure that we address the issue, but we also don't create another headache, and we do it right, because, we got the bigger project coming. So let's move forward, unless objected by my colleagues, but but I don't want to take that temporary fix off the table until I really,
We can't get a date?
well, I mean, the director had provided dates, but.
We'll have a discussion, council member, on this issue, and so you'll feel either comfortable one way or the other, and we can bring it back to council if it's a different
Sure.
direction.
Let's bring this up again at the next meeting, but we'll all have discussions about it as well, so.
Are we agendizing that?
At this point, I don't think we need to, based on the bigger project, but I just want to get, I don't want to take the,
Could we agendize it just so that it's brought back and we have a discussion?
Yes?
that's fine.
Okay, well, I second,
Yeah,
okay.
let's bring it back. Let's see, just lastly, going back, and now it's more fun than anything. I mentioned it during the bike ride. I think, I just definitely want to make it official for us to have Director Ugard look into, creating agendizing and implementing another bike ride. I think that's, and I think that's just something that we've never done here in the city before, and I think that's great, and we've done it. So if we can do that, in addition to that, I do believe, and I was talking to Assemblymember Cristina Garcia in our ride, and she's supportive of this and a 5K type run that she's willing to support. But I want to propose it in light of our national news of the run of the cows, that we do a 5K cow run, and I think it'll be fun. I think it'll get us out there. So bike ride and 5K. We are an active city. We are designated as an active city. Let's promote that as well. So hopefully I can get a second from my colleagues too.
Looking for the cow?
For both the bike and a 5K run. It's a 5K run, but we're just calling it a 5K cow run so we can all wear bells and,
We'll bring back something to council to see what that would entail from a capacity, and also, it's a lot of undertaking to do. I know it's a lot of resources that we use with the sheriff's department, but I think what we're trying to do is create these types of events throughout the year.
They told me it was simple. It didn't require much resources. So
How many deputies did you have on that?
We had some on the ATVs. We had some in radio cars. We had our motor out.
Yeah, now I saw everything, yes.
Well, let's look into it.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Councilman Laura.
Great, thanks. I have 3 items. I'd like to be very brief. I've talked to some of the nonprofit groups out there that participate in the sale of fireworks within our city. And I'd like to look, hopefully I get a second, I'd like to look in changing our municipal code regarding fireworks to allow them to sell on June 28th when the permit is issued to them, that they have that option instead of waiting till July 1st. It will just be able to maximize their ability to finance themselves.
If I may, we've had that discussion before, and I agree. It's one of those, things that I know staff has brought to the table in the past, but I would second that.
Thank you. The second item is I've been in discussion with 2 school board members, and just briefly, we've been in discussion with USA Soccer regarding mini pitch fields at Ruben Salazar Park, or school rather. And there's a section where the basketball courts are, that's on El Rancho Unified School District property. And there's a cement section where the Rodon brothers would like to, their initial concept with the mini pitch field was to place it there. I bring it to council because I'd like to refer this to the community service committee that you created that is in conjunction with the school board. And Dr. Sanchez and Councilmember Lutz, hopefully the both of you, I'll pass it on to you. If you can take that on, I think Councilmember Lutz has experience in doing that since he spearheaded the first one at Pico Park. Dr. Sanchez, as you head the committee, I think this would be something great. I will inform the school district, and Pam will then work with the both of you in terms of getting that project up off the ground, hopefully. The belief is that we to the table is the use of their land. Now, it hasn't been completed with their school board. but this is the preliminary, and hopefully you can the both of you can take it over. If I could do I need a second for this?
You need a second for them?
No, okay, they got it, good.
On our agenda.
Thank you. Lastly, I'd like a second on this item, please. I'd like to start the discussion of creating the process in which the city's going to go by and either renewing or searching for a new city manager. We know that these items can take months. It can take maybe 6 months. I would like a discussion brought back to city council. I will need a second for that. And don't read anything into this, please, city admin. But we need to start the process. We need to start a discussion. This involves getting maybe a recruiter, applicants, or city manager. We'll look at him again, but I think this opens this up. May I get a second, please, on this item?
Second.
Thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you.
That's to
Councilman.
agendize? A discussion?
Yeah, a discussion item I think is fine.
You want discussion on it?
Yeah, because this is the first time I'm doing this. So I agendize this as a discussion item because I'd like the city attorney to talk about the steps in which we would go by, unless you think of.
But you want to agendize it for the next meeting?
Yes.
For this discussion, okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Councilman.
Can I just get clarification, Mayor, on that item? Would this be something, because the personnel matter request would be a closed session item?
Yes.
Well, it could be if it's specific. Right now, it's a general situation right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll need more information, and I'll talk to the city manager, and, you know, again, personnel matters are best discussed in closed session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple items that I wanted to discuss, and, you know, I'm a really big proponent about beautification of our city. And we have all these projects that are coming around in the next couple years. And some of the items that I was thinking of getting rocking and rolling would be the signage that you have entering into the city, say, if you lived in Pico Rivera, or welcome. I forget it's a sarcastic statement. Yeah, if you lived in Pico Rivera, you'd be home by now. Let that sit for a little while. If you lived in Pico Rivera, you'd be home by now. That makes me feel really welcome. If I'm not a resident, I would propose that we change out those 3 signs that are still left, or 2 signs, and switch them out to something a little bit more positive and optimistic for residents that live here, and then people that come and dine and shop in the city, something to the effect of welcome to Pico Rivera, a business and family-friendly city. If I get a second on getting those replaced, and we come up with the slogan thereafter.
I second that. I really never liked those things.
Okay. Let me get it here. You want to take a look at changing our greeting?
Yeah, that greeting is very sarcastic, and, you know, it belittles.
And you're seconding it, okay.
Yes, yes.
May I add a friendly request, because there's history behind that, and I'm all for it. I'm all for what you're requesting, by the way. But nevertheless, I think it's important to, whereas as you're looking at that, as we're looking at that, to look at our existing monuments, the actual signs that say Pico Rivera welcome. I know there's always been an issue of proper lighting, and, you know, some go off. We need to be consistent on that lighting, because, you know, it doesn't take much to see that the light's working or not, and some lights are different than others. When we did the pedestrian bridge here on Rosemary Boulevard, we were just going to do the bridge, and I pushed that we put a Pico Rivera sign. You know, we got to address, the lighting wasn't done properly, but if we're going to, you know, look into the beautification and the signage, I think let's incorporate that in there as well.
Yes, and I would, Councilmember Camacho was referring to is absolutely right. There's some of those marquees that are coming into the neighborhood on Washington, Whittier, Beverly, were the solar lights that shine on the Pico Rivera marquee, which is really nice and modern. So I commend that design. The lights are busted on a couple of them. If we can get that, again, in the whole effort of beautifying the city, because we're in the midst of beautifying all these intersections, so if we can get those items taken care of. So the other item too is beautification and quality of business. I want to get a second on creating a moratorium on smoke shops. I mean, everyone is entitled to do what they want, but I think too many smoke shops is a hindrance in the progress of a community. So if I could get a second on that.
I would second that. I think we had a request last year to look into our policies related to tobacco policies. So if we can revisit that, I forgot, we can follow up now on that.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And the other item I'd like to bring back and agendize is that we review our shopping cart ordinance and our vacant lot ordinance to see if we can strengthen those up. Again, in efforts of beautification of our city. You have a proactive council here that is taking in essence, an active approach in making sure that our community in the upcoming years is going to be beautiful. As soon as you come in, when you see the marquees, they show that the city is, business and family friendly. And we have great landscaping and beautiful buildings. So, the effort starts now. 5-10 years from now, our results are going to be showing. So I'd like to see if we can get a staff to bring that up and agendize for a future meeting.
I second.
Thank you. I believe that's enough for today. I given the staff enough homework. I'll finish up now.
Okay, well,
Thank you, Mayor.
okay, thank you. All right, what I'd like to do is get a second on agendizing the review of our code of ethics. We need to review it, we need to update it. So if I can, may I have a second on that?
I'll give you a second.
Oh, thank you, okay. And, the process that I'd like to use is that since it's going to be on the agenda, that it's going to provide the council members 2 weeks to be able to, review and see exactly what we have to update. Now, I spoke to you, City Manager, and you agreed that there's some areas that we have to update.
That is correct.
Okay. Now, in terms of, councilmen's, the city manager, we have an evaluation in process. And I think what we have to do is that we have to codify the evaluation process for the city manager. Because again, I found items there that, that weren't consistent in terms of evaluating you. So, I want to include that, in terms of, in terms of a procedure. Okay? The other item that I'd like to do is, I want to mention something because I think it's, we've had a problem with clerical people saying, we send out stuff to you guys and you don't respond. In defense of my colleagues here, we have jobs and we have families, okay? And if you're similar to what I have, you're bombarded with emails, okay? If you really need to get something done, make an appointment, sit us down in the office and go through it. Don't expect us to do it because, again, I have a problem with that, okay? And other, the other clerical people have that same problem with it. We're not responding. Well, we're not responding because we're very busy. The other item that I need to talk about is that I had a discussion with our Washington, D.C. lobbyist. And he had asked some time ago for the priorities of our city, in terms of funding and what he needs to be able to take a look at. Where are we on that?
Staff? I think there has been some work in that arena.
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have put together a comprehensive program that includes a series of priorities that are based on our capital infrastructure program, as well as some of the programmatic issues that we're seeking. So, for example, we did submit, as part of that program, federal earmark requests to the tune of approximately $181 million, that is. The list was pretty comprehensive. We then broke that down to federal earmarks and then, of course, to state-level requests. And all of that information has been shared with our federal lobbyists, and we have provided additional follow-up with them regarding those
because I
priorities.
spoke to him just a week ago, and he still said that he was missing the information. I guess you have to make it simple.
I think in addition to what Mr. Hernandez has mentioned, there are, with the new funding, we do need to look at, revisit the additional priorities and funding opportunities there. So let's sit down and figure that out.
Sure.
together.
Okay. Now, the other item that I need to talk to you about, the Community Service Council, is that we have a situation right now where an important bus route for our students, Route 60, okay, was terminated, and it's creating quite a problem with, with the community in total here. Now, there's been a meeting scheduled for Thursday at 4:30, okay, and it's really up to you whether you want it to Zoom or a face-to-face. But they want to talk about a strategy where, we can get the community to respond. Okay. We talked about the public outreach. Okay. When are we going to get the Spanish edition?
That's scheduled for next council meeting.
Okay. I want to share something with you because, again, it actually should be in the next item here, but it wasn't an agency. The city was invited to greet the mayor of Nayarit and the mayor of Tepic Nayarit. And, they had a fair, and they had it at the sports arena. And I had the opportunity of having one of the Mexican dignitaries come to me. His English was very clear and so on. And, it kind of fits into the bike, the bike situation and so on. He said, Señora Elias, you know that most venues, Mexican venues or even Latino venues, are done in communities that are not that good. Okay, so think about it, okay? The Coliseum, and it's not that good. He said, this is ideal. He says, this is ideal. He says, we're in a community. He said, I went through Pico Rivera, and it's clean. He said, it's very clean. And he goes, and it looks like everyone is happy and wealthy. Okay. And I said, well, yeah. But what he did was that he just made me feel like, because again, the potential. And what he did was he said, it's not only a good example, he says, but people from Mexico take a look and they see, this is where I want to live. Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you because, again, the guy almost made me cry. Okay. But he didn't make me cry. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Also, if you would be able to meet with some of the staff of the sports arena to discuss the road situation?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Mayor, if I may, just a clarification on the point that you made regarding the evaluation of the city manager as to the process and methodology. Via email that you sent out and requested us to participate. So I'm glad you brought it up that we need to determine what is that process, what is that method based on the contract. So I want to make sure that I know there's been a request by my colleague as to look into a broader issue, but I want to make sure we separate those, but we do discuss them in closed session and making sure we're doing, two things and not you know.
I don't understand what,
So the evaluation of the city manager should be separate from the request of looking to,
well, I think he's
search.
talking about the entire position and the way that it should be handled. And I think that's important in terms of, that's a vital part right now in terms of the evaluation. This is the first evaluation that I'm seeing, and you've had a 3-year contract.
May I ask our city attorney to just weigh in on that thought? I just want to make sure that, again, as Councilman requested, look at a search.
Mayor and members of the council, again, there is a provision in the city manager's contract that reflects the city council's responsibility to perform a performance evaluation. Those are conducted in closed session.
Yes.
Those are, the city manager has his privacy rights, his personnel of the city. The process itself is generally discussed in closed session. It's not usually codified. I haven't seen in my 40 years of doing this type of work where a city actually places it in an ordinance, but I mean, other than possibly a timing situation. But again, that's a council decision. We probably would be best to, if you wish to have that conversation, if the council wishes to have that conversation in closed session, not tonight, but at a future agenda.
Which I support and
Yeah.
look at.
Okay. All business.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Sure. I just wanted to quickly announce and thank our partners, the LA County Sheriff Department. I had the opportunity to attend the National Night Out. That was a successful event. We recognized several of our school district partners, community business owners, individuals that helped out with the pandemic, vaccinations. And it was just an overall great event with music, a great turnout, and I'm glad that we did it. It was outdoors, and I think it was another great partnership, another great event. And I look forward with this great partnership. I recognize that at this time, at the county level, there are several entities, groups that are looking to defund the sheriffs, but I think we have a great model of community partnerships. And so I really don't advocate for that because then we lose funding for our sheriffs. So I think that it's important for us to highlight our partnerships, our biking events, our community events, and the types of things that are keeping our city safe. And I do recognize that there are things going on in the state, in the nation, in the city. But I think we've done a great job, and our sheriffs done a great job in the city with those partnerships. So I wanted to highlight that. Secondly, I had an opportunity also to have a attend a luncheon with the mayor of Chapala, Mexico. And our relationships there are still strong. Maybe for future, once things get improved with COVID, we can revisit looking into our sister cities and our cultural partnerships. But I think that's premature right now, given the Delta variant and a lot of our things. But I just wanted to mention that it was a wonderful luncheon, and we did get a lot of kudos, recognitions, and ideas from our partners in Mexico. And lastly, I do have some updates. I have a meeting with staff next Thursday for our community services ad hoc. We have a lot on our agenda, and by next council meeting, we will have even more updates for you. Okay? So that's it for me.
Councilman? No. Councilman?
Mayor, I did attend the National Night Out, and it was a fantastic partnership between the sheriffs and the city, where the community gets to interact with our sheriff, our law enforcement, and to build that trust that we definitely need, because our sheriff are ultimately the ones that protect and serve us day in, day out. So that was a fantastic event, and thank you, Lieutenant, for being a part of that and bringing the entire sheriff's department, as many as it could attend, all those vehicles. I would have loved to jump into those vehicles, but somehow I thought I probably didn't fit. I did want to bring up another ongoing item. It's slightly new business, slightly old business. Now, our very own Christian Roldan and his brother Alex, those are graduates from El Rancho High School, and they're big time. They're stars in the soccer arena. In fact, Christian Roldan and the U.S. men's national team won the CONCACAF Gold Cup, and what that means now, they're going to be able to go to the, I believe, the quarterfinals for the World Cup that's upcoming, and so there is going to be a mini pitch field that's going to be built in Pico Park, and the Roldan brothers are going to be coming possibly at the end of the month, I believe. Is it this month, Mayor?
August 25th.
August 25th, and if we could coordinate, Mr. City Manager, a welcoming, a thank you to the Roldan brothers, some type of maybe a modest parade, because when we have someone that is, in my eyes, a champion in a sport, and now we have two, Christian and Alex, when it comes to the soccer arena, and that is the biggest sport around the world, we need to acknowledge them, and I think it would be fitting, if at all possible, to do some type of mini parade.
I think that's a wonderful idea. And I would definitely support that. I think this hometown hero.
Hometown heroes, in essence, and we got two so far. You know, let's keep that count going. And if we can, we got a second from Council Member Camacho. Let's see if we can facilitate that on short notice.
Yeah, I think we've already reached out to the Roldan camp to see what their availability is, and we're still waiting to hear back from them.
Great. Thank you. That's it for me.
Intergovernmental agency meetings. Mayor Pro Tem.
And none right now to report. Thank you.
Councilman Camacho?
Nothing to report.
Councilman Lara? Councilman?
None, Mayor.
Meeting adjourned.
Mayor, if I may, I think there's some closing in memory of some
Oh.
individuals.
Yes. See, where's my paper here? Okay. Yes, we're closing in memory of David Michael Smith, Marine veteran, Fernando Martinez, Rebecca Salcido, Karen Lemire, Irene Beechler, Guadalupe Campello, Rosie Garcia, and Manuel Barrando. Meeting adjourned.